What's up guys, this is your favorite fanfic YouTuber, the Fanfic Majesty, and welcome to another amazing video. You can follow me on Patreon for exclusive stories. 6 Iya, Chapter 128126. Something happened to Hina, the history of great changes. For subscription, for monthly pass, for recommendation. Advertisement. Sending Monet back to her house directly, Lucas walked out and walked all the way to the house. In Monet's house, after a while, Monet slowly woke up, looked at the empty room, and looked at his clothes. Quote. Monet was in pain, but the action failed again. She didn't understand, where did she go wrong? The predecessors said that women chase the men's compartment yarn, but she has driven the bulldozer, and the mountain of Lucas has not moved away. For half a year, Lucas was left by Sakazuki in Marineford, the headquarters of Marine. Lucas spends every morning under the training of Zephyr, and in the afternoon he does physical training by himself. After dinner, he began to exercise his hockey hard again. Until late at night, when many people had already fallen asleep, he dragged his tired body back home. Wake up early the next morning and continue to exercise. Within half a year, Lucas successfully learned how to use high-end armament hockey in external release. However, it is a pity that there is still no progress in the ability to foresee the short-term future for Katakuri's ability to see and hear. It's just that the range of perception of color is much larger, and the intensity of perception is much stronger than before. At a training ground, Lucas stood in front of a boulder and hit the stone with one palm. He has used the external armed color to evolve into a substantive offensive force, and learned a trick to form an impact. And now, he is trying to develop armed internal destruction. It's just a pity that he hasn't developed this trick. Internal destruction is a more advanced technique that goes beyond armed and external release. After so long of his practice, Kendo has improved a lot, but Devil Fruit's progress has been slower and slower. One is because he spends most of his time on hockey and Kendo, and there is very little time to develop Devil Fruit's abilities. Second, because his Devil Fruit will be developed in the next step, it will take a lot more time and energy to multiply it than before. Lucas's current multiplier is only 48 times. The speed of progress is indeed much slower. But he is not in a hurry. After all, he still has to focus on hockey, Kendo and physical training first. Standing in front of the boulder, looking at the boulder destroyed by the shock wave formed by the armed color that he unintentionally released. Lucas shook his head helplessly. There was really no clue about the internal damage. Next, he is ready to exercise more experience. Advertisement. You are here. At this moment, Sakazuki walked over and looked at Lucas. What's the matter? Lucas stopped and looked at Sakazuki. Come with me, there is one thing I don't know if you want to do it. Sakazuki finished speaking and turned around and walked away. Lucas followed, wondering why Sakazuki suddenly sought him out. The two walked all the way before they came to a small conference room. Several Marines here looked at the two who walked in. Everyone is here, then I should also talk about the situation. A Marine stood in front of the crowd, holding a reward order in his hand. The reward order was placed in front of a projection phone worm. One eye of the projection phone worm was staring at the reward, and the other eye directly projected the reward onto a screen. This is Sir Crocodile, the great pirate, who was invited to be one of the Shichibukai. After listening to this Marine's introduction, Lucas looked at the curtain. He knows all this, but Lao Sha is still Shichibukai. So what are they gathering here for? Just discuss an old Sha. He is now in the rain area of Alabasta. Nonsense. Lucas waited for the other party's message. And this one is ours. She was sent to the Marine branch base near Alabasta. Just last night, everyone in the Marine branch disappeared. No one was alive or dead. As soon as the Marine finished speaking, Lucas suddenly squeezed his fist and stared at the photo projected on the screen. Hina, according to her previous contact with the headquarters, she said she was going to investigate Crocodile, and she said that the other party had some ulterior motives. Quote. Lucas kept breathing deeply, trying to keep himself calm. He understood the ins and outs of the matter. Sister Hina suddenly noticed Crocodile for some unknown reason. After investigating, she discovered some secrets of the other party, and Lao Sha, who had a plot on Alabasta, did not allow his conspiracy to be made public. So he chose to kill everyone in that Marine branch. Who did it? A Marine looked at the photo of Crocodile on the table. They had already guessed, but they still wanted to find further evidence. Advertisement. In fact, many Marines are not satisfied with the Shichibukai system. They now have something they can try to bring down this system. We did not have any eyewitnesses who saw him take action, nor did we find any evidence at the scene. Marine standing in front shook his head helplessly. There is no evidence for the world government to see, so even if they can kill Crocodile forcefully, they will not be able to bring down the Shichibukai system. Why is she investigating Crocodile? Lucas asked. He didn't understand. He hadn't talked to Hina about Crocodile's speculations, at least the history of the Alabasta line was not destroyed by him. But suddenly, how did things become like this? I don't know, but she should have discovered Crocodile's secret. She just contacted the headquarters to investigate Crocodile. It didn't take long before something went wrong. The Marine said helplessly. Quote. Lucas was lost in thought. He kept recalling the previous communication with Hina, recalling. Suddenly, he thought of something he had been neglecting. Although he had never said Crocodile, every time Hina talked about what Crocodile did, he would subconsciously hate this guy, and said something bad about Crocodile. Is it because of his attitude that affected Hina? But can just an attitude affect the Alabasta line that had nothing to do with it? Lucas fell into suspicion. The purpose of this discussion is to decide who will go to Alabasta to investigate. But it is better for the investigator to be stronger. I'll go, Lucas said, then looked at the people present. Good. Lucas walked out of the meeting room, and Sakazuki stopped him. We don't need evidence, we can kill Crocodile when necessary. The other good news is that Hina is not dead. Sakazuki said, knocking Lucas on the head. Hina is not like this guy, what a moth. Hina had made a life card that belonged to her a long time ago, so what they know now is that Hina is not dead, but where is she? What's the status? I don't know. This is her life card, go to Alabasta and find her. Clear. Chapter 129127. Hina defeats the Sand Bandit. For subscription. For monthly pass. For reward. Advertisement. At the same time, Alabasta, somewhere in the desert. Wounded Hina hid in the shadow of a boulder. She was badly injured and lay weakly under the boulder. She now recalled what happened before she investigated Crocodile. At that time, she and Tenten trained in the Marine branch, or went to sea to catch pirates. In my heart, there is both envy for the strength of his little brother Lucas in doing so many excellent things, but also dissatisfaction with his current status quo. Hina suddenly had an idea. She wanted to investigate Crocodile, not for credit, but simply wanting to do something for the justice in her heart. This proves that she is also very good, an excellent and just Marine. So Hina started investigating Crocodile. The younger brother often shows a distrustful attitude towards Crocodile. Similarly, Hina agrees very much. She doesn't believe in pirates either. She spent some time investigating an organization that Crocodile was forming. And that organization is hiding in the dark, and it seems like it is going to make some conspiracy against this country, doing shameful actions. However, Hina has just investigated some actions of this organization and has not yet come to G to report. When returning to Marine Base, the entire Marine Base was completely attacked by Crocodile. Including her, many Marines are not Crocodile's opponents. Most of the people were killed by the opponent, and their bodies were destroyed. And Hina was rescued by her subordinates. Hina lay down, looking at the comatose subordinates lying across from her. The rush to escape, the record pointer, the permanent pointer, or the phone bug, didn't bring it. Hina has a dry mouth and tongue. In this desert, there is no food or water at all, and it won't last long. Hina heard the sound coming from a distance, and got up with difficulty, looking at a sand thief ship appearing in the distance. The first half of the Grand Line, a few days later. Alabasta, a merchant ship docked on the shore. Lucas and Monet got off the ship, the two looked around, and then headed towards Elmar. Lucas holds Hina's life card in his hand. The life card points to the location of Hina at this time. Lucas and Monet only need to follow the direction of the life card to find Hina. Advertisement. Sneak to Alabasta first, after all, Crocodile has his eyeliner here. Lucas still rescued Hina in a low-key manner, and then settled accounts with the B*********************. Lucas walked in front, the two of them wore hats on their heads, their eyes turned on, and they stood outside Elmar. Lucas felt Elmar's situation. I found all the eyeliners, and then took Monet to Elmar to avoid these eyeliners, bought some supplies, bought 2 camels, and then left the city and continued towards the direction of the life card. It's hot. Monet reached out and grabbed the brim of his hat, lowering his hat. It's okay. Lucas nodded. As Marine, it is still possible to endure the heat. Crocodile, this guy wants to control this country through a conspiracy, and then find the terrible weapon Pluton. Lucas believed that the other party would not let Hina leave Alabasta alive. Therefore, the two of them can only act low-key and save people. Who knows what Lao Sha, a mad dog, will do if he gets anxious. Lucas still cares about the safety of the older sister's life. The two of them rode a camel and traveled a distance in the extremely hot desert. Looking at the city that appeared in the distance, Lucas took out the life card and glanced at it. The life card clearly pointed to the oasis city in front of him. Hina is not here, or her direction happens to be in the same direction as this city, somewhere in this direction behind the city. I heard people say that this oasis is called Demela's Oasis, and there are sand boat sellers here. Monet looked at Lucas and said, if you don't enter the city, leave here immediately. Lucas whispered directly. Their supplies didn't move much at all, and the water only drank a little, and Lucas's perception revealed the many eyeliners hidden in the city. It is better to expose as little as possible. The sand boat can greatly increase the speed of travel. Monet suggested. Can you learn in a short time? Lucas looked at Monet. Can't learn. That's better than riding a camel. Lucas shook his head and took the lead around the oasis. They may not be able to learn the operation of the sand boat in a short time. After all, they are not born in the sand boat. Advertisement. Learning the sand boat here will only greatly increase the chance of exposing yourself. The gain is not worth the loss. The two of them rode a camel, bypassed Elmar, and headed in the direction pointed by the life card. As they got closer and closer, Lucas suddenly discovered that the life card in his hand would change direction after a while, just as Hina was constantly changing her position in the desert. What's the situation? The two continued on their journey of finding people. The sky gradually dimmed, and when night came, Lucas was about to stop and rest when suddenly he heard a clear sound. It was as if in the desert, there was a huge monster rushing quickly, and the direction the sound came from was exactly the direction the life card was pointing. Lucas, who had just gotten off the camel, quickly handed the rope holding the camel to Monet. Listening to the voice, Lucas hurriedly ran to a sand dune, looking at the huge shadow that rushed towards them in the distance. The huge shadow seemed to be a ship, and Lucas suddenly remembered the sand thief in Alabasta. Stepping directly on the moonwalk, he quickly rushed to the sand thief ship. The principle of the sand thief boat is the same as that of the sand boat. It uses the wind of the desert to make the boat move fast. However, Lucas is much faster than this ship in terms of growth. Standing on the deck of the ship, Lucas looked at the scene on the ship in shock. Hina held the kettle in her hand, drank the water, then took a bite of meat, and stepped on a sand thief. On this ship, many sand thieves were imprisoned by her cage fruit, and only a part of the sand thieves were left to manage the normal movement of the sand thieves. Not far from Hina, one of her subordinates was sitting, and the subordinates were also drinking water and eating meat. Lucas. Hina looked at Lucas, who appeared on the boat in surprise. She didn't expect the other party to find here so quickly. Quickly let the ship stop. Lucas said hastily, let's wait for the ship to stop before recounting the past. Okay. Hina nodded and ordered the sand thieves. The sand thief all obeyed their orders and made the sand thief boat stop slowly before passing the sand dunes. Wait a minute. Lucas jumped out of the sand thief boat and came to the other side of the dune to find Monet. The two dragged the camel over the dune and tied the camel to a boulder before returning to the boat. Chapter 130,128. Investigate crocodile. For subscription. For monthly pass. For recommendation. Advertisement. Lucas sat in front of Hina, looking at the older sister. Tell me about the situation. Good. Hina looked at him and Monet, and investigated crocodile one by one. She didn't have the ultimate goal of investigating crocodile at all, but she accidentally investigated the organization established by crocodile, and also investigated some things about the crocodile organization. All these things are not good for this country. However, after Lucas's questioning, he was disappointed. Hina's evidence was not brought out. Obviously, crocodile absolutely found the evidence at Marine Base and destroyed it. They killed crocodile without evidence. After all, Shichibukai was gone and changed again, and the opponent did indeed shoot against Marine. But five elders doesn't care about the life and death of some Marine that they look down on. Only when all the evidence that a Shichibukai threatened a country's power is in front of five elders, will they consider whether to cancel Shichibukai. But, Lucas felt that even if they got the evidence, it would not be so easy to overthrow the Shichibukai system. After all, in the original plot, Alabasta was indeed threatened by Shichibukai, and only when Dressrosa went through the Dressrosa incident, after the World Summit, was the Shichibukai system officially cancelled. It will be difficult to bring down this system. How are your injuries? Lucas asked. After a few days of raising it, it's better, but at most I can deal with such a small character. Hina said frustratedly. Originally, she wanted to do a big thing, and it was great to let the younger brother see her. She didn't expect that she would actually make things like this. I was saved by my little brother. Okay, then, the next thing is to send you away, and then I will take action against Crocodile and the other party's organization. Lucas said, took out the phone worm, and contacted Sakazuki in Marineford, the headquarters of Marine. He will let Hina and her subordinates leave Alabasta in a low-key manner, while Lucas and Monet will conduct a low-key investigation of Crocodile's organization in Alabasta. After the investigation, they will behead Crocodile, and Crocodile's organization will be surrounded and suppressed by Marine who came to reinforce it. Advertisement. Understood. Hina nodded, and she looked at her little brother with satisfaction. The little brother Marineford Tenton once stuck to her and Smoker is now an excellent Marine general. This is. Hina looked at Monet curiously. Monet, my subordinate, Lucas introduced. Oh, Hina smiled and looked at Monet. She had just noticed that this little girl had never left Lucas's eyes. He kept looking at Lucas with that kind of admiration, and made no secret of it. Hina smiled. The boy found a girlfriend in Marine. She deserves to be her little brother, with a good vision. Quote. Lucas looked at the eldest sister with a blank face. Why is the look weird? The two camels were lifted directly by Lucas with ropes and put them on the sand thief boat. Under his threat, the sand thief hurriedly controlled the sand thief boat and headed towards Alabasta's inland river, the Santa Dora. There was a sea boat to catch Hina's departure. Lucas felt the cold night wind in the desert and listened to Sister Hina talking about her experience. When Hina was desperate, she was ready to give it a try and rush into the desert. As a result, the sand thief boat passed by, saw Hina, and stopped directly. The next step is very simple. Although Hina is injured, she can still catch these bad sand thieves. Here, Lucas looked at the river in the distance. In the wee hours of the morning, they finally came to the Santa Dora River. Sending Hina off the sand thief boat, Lucas personally watched her being picked up by his own people by the river. Then he assuredly asked the sand pirates to move the sand pirate ship towards Yuba. In the two cities of Elmar and Demela's oasis, the eyeliner he could find in them was perceived through seeing, hearing and color. Next, he needs to find out most of the people in Lao Shaw's organization in various cities in this country. Do not seek to find out all, just find out a part. After all, the people in the organization didn't know the real purpose of Lao Shaw. It was a group of blinded people who worked for Lao Shaw. This kind of person only needs world government to worry about, he only provides a general information. In the current timeline, Robin has not yet entered the Grand Line, and many of Lao Shaw's men have not gathered. Advertisement. Lucas sat on the sand thief boat, looking at the desert scenery under the night. He was thinking about one thing, how did Lao Sha discover Pluton's information before meeting Robin? He knew too little information to understand where Lao Sha got the news of Pluton. This problem bothered him. In fact, he also wanted to know about Pluton. The Sand Thief ship swiftly headed towards Yuba. During the day, they arrived at Yuba. Lucas was able to detect Yuba in the sight of seeing, hearing, and seeing, and then avoiding everyone's sight, he returned to the Sand Thief ship that was parked behind a dune far away in Yuba. The Sand Thief quickly left Yuba, and then headed towards the other cities of Alabasta. Lucas was sitting on the Sand Thief boat, with a hat on his head, and a Sand Thief beside him was pleased to fan him. Monet handed a piece of fruit, Lucas took it, and looked at the desert. As a Hamey, he also occasionally watched One Piece's timeline in his previous life. However, no matter how he studied the timeline, he found that the more carefully he studied the timeline and the task experience time in the information found on the internet, the more confused he would be. Lao Sha's experience. At the age of 20, Lao Sha met 19-year-old Roger Pirates crew member Bullet, and the battle was undecided. Therefore, the well-known Lao Sha was invited by World Conquer to become Shichibukai. In the same year, Lao Sha challenged Whitebeard and failed miserably. After the fiasco, he settled down for a while, and after a while, he extended the demon to Alabasta. Let alone how outrageous Lao Sha played with Bullet. When Lao Sha was 20 years old, he failed to challenge Whitebeard. After a while, he focused on Alabasta. His purpose is well known to readers, he wants Pluton to make himself stronger. At the age of 20, he had already set his sights on Pluton and came to Alabasta. Is it special? It is written on the timeline that Robin only joined the criminal organization, Baroque Job Club, in 1518 and became Lao Sha's partner, code-named Miss Sunday. So, how did Lao Sha only know Pluton before? And in such a long time, how did Lao Sha communicate with members without Robin? How did you win over? Lucas is very curious about how great their ideals are to make a group of criminals, because a guy who can't even show up will gather together and work for each other for so many years. Many days later, Lucas took a look at the situation of the Alabasta Baroque Work Agency, and he came to the rain. Chapter 131,129. Lao Sha, you drink water. Lao Sha, you are a fruit. Subscribe. Ask for a monthly pass. Advertisement. Rain, this is where Crocodile is. Lucas stood in the alley, looking at the casino opposite. And Monet stood behind him. You are waiting here. If I succeed in killing Crocodile, I will come back to find you. If I fail to kill the opponent and I will fight Crocodile, then you are responsible for helping me clean up the members of the Baroque Working Society in this city. Clear. Monet nodded and agreed. Lucas drew his knife and entered the speed-up state. The speed-up was full. The whole person disappeared instantly and rushed directly into the casino. Among his perceptions, Crocodile is inside this casino. On the official life card, Sir Crocodile's hockey column is empty. It proves that Crocodile does not know hockey, so the other party has no sense of color. At the entrance of the casino, a male gambler opened the door and walked in. Not long after, Lucas had already rushed into the casino. The people inside looked at their clothes being raised in doubt. Where is the wind coming from? They didn't see Lucas at all. At this time, Crocodile was sitting in a room in the casino. He rubbed his head nervously and smoked a cigar. The smoke slowly flew up. Crocodile looked at the smoke. Now he was pulling his subordinates behind the scenes, manipulating the organization behind the scenes, and doing a lot of things for the organization behind the scenes. He was the only one who controlled the organization behind the scenes, which was really strenuous. And every few days, he will go out to fight a dozen pirates, and stage a scene of, Lord Crocodile saved you, for the people of Alabasta. To be honest, he is really tired. Although I have always wanted to find a good assistant, I have never found the right one. The newspaper reported that a group of pirates was about to arrive in Alabasta recently. He stood up, adjusted his clothes, prepared to open the door, and went to Elmar to show off his greatness. Although a few days ago, he killed an entire marine base in order to destroy the evidence. Advertisement. But he was not afraid. After all, he did enough work, and any evidence pointing to him was wiped out by him. However, Lao Sha, who has not seen or heard S**X, probably doesn't know, because there is no seen or heard S**X, he didn't find anyone running away from marine base. For this reason, it will bring him a disaster. A tiny butterfly in history can cause a chain reaction of horror by fanning its wings. Opening the door, Crocodile frowned and watched a gust of wind blowing in the corridor in the distance. Wrong. Tenton played with the dust on his own, and he was clear, but it was impossible for this kind of wind to form here. Although Crocodile has no sight, but his feelings tell him that it is dangerous. Crocodile's body instantly turned into a cloud of dust, directly avoiding the invisible attack. He waved his hand directly to spread the sand all over the room. As long as there were people inside, he would be locked by his sand and sucked up by him. So, Lucas acted, standing in front of Crocodile, covered in armed color, staring at Crocodile closely. What? Crocodile regained his shape and looked at Lucas in surprise. This guy actually knows armament hockey. Lucas disappeared again, and Crocodile was not so lucky this time. He is not Katakuri. Without the pervert ability, it is impossible to avoid Lucas's attack every time. Click. Crocodile looked at the seastone handcuffs on his hands, and at Lucas who appeared again, the other party's gloved hands holding the seastone handcuffs. Crocodile was handcuffed by seastone. Then, Lucas slashed Crocodile's arm with a hook and cut it off. Crocodile gritted his teeth and stared at him, wishing to kill him. Crocodile, hurry up and tell me what you and the Baroque jobs have for this country. Lucas asked loudly. Of course, Lucas didn't think that Lao Sha would give out any useful information. All he has to do is find a reason, and then he can kill the opponent. After all, Crocodile has reached the point where he needs to find Pluton to achieve his ambitions. But for this kind of person, it is difficult for the other party to confess. The Marine Rear Admiral, do you think I'm an idiot? Crocodile broke his arm and kept bleeding, gritted his teeth and looked up at Lucas with a sorrowful smile. Advertisement. Although he can't beat the opponent, he hasn't been able to tell the opponent from the heart. Say it. Lucas punched Crocodile in the face, doing all the play. In fact, he was just trying to avenge those Marines. What does world government mean? Detain Crocodile into the underwater prison. Just kidding, he now has enough strength, how can he honestly let this kind of pirate go to the underwater prison? Lucas directly handcuffed Crocodile to the sea stone cage on one side. I have to say that this thing prepared by Crocodile was ultimately useless for others. Lucas went directly outside and found a lot of fruits. Although the staff found him who broke in, he was, gently, knocked out. Back in Crocodile's house, Lucas placed various fruits beside Crocodile. Oh, I didn't expect that in this place where water resources are extremely scarce, I can see so much water and more precious fruits. Lucas sat among the fruits and looked at the crocodile raised by Crocodile. Amazed. He has always had a suspicion when he watched anime in his previous life. Since Crocodile can produce dust, and since the sand of the other party can absorb water, Alabasta has experienced more and more water shortages in various oases in recent years. Until many years later, how can the oasis that could continue to persist, one after another? One of them disappeared. Lao Sha, please tell me a little bit. Do you like drinking water? Lucas said with a smile. What do you want to say straight? I'm not afraid of you. Crocodile said angrily. Makes me like the villain. Lucas slapped Crocodile's face with an unhappy slap. Obviously, the B********* D in front of him was the culprit who put Alabasta in crisis and caused many people to die. Do you think that if I broke the glass next to it and let the water pour in, would you drink with the crocodiles? Lucas smiled and looked at Crocodile. Crocodile frowned and looked at Lucas in front of him. This Marine was different from the Marine he had encountered before. For most of Marine, either choose to imprison the pirates in an undersea prison or kill all the pirates. However, the one in front of him is obviously more evil and interesting, but he will definitely not be sent to the underwater prison. I prepared some fruits for you. Which fruit do you like to eat? Lucas patted the fruit beside him, then took the knife and aimed it at Crocodile's heart. Chapter 132,130. 5 Elders Controversy. For subscription. For monthly pass. For reward. Advertisement. Kill if you want. Crocodile glared at Lucas. Puff. Lucas directly pierced Coloctle's heart with a single knife. He had never heard such a cheap request. Crocodile's head was drooping, and the great pirate who had the intent to usurp the power of a country, just died. Lucas sat in front of Crocodile like this, Crocodile and Doflamingo, but because of them in the future, the two countries will fall into misery and grief. When Alabasta fell into a natural disaster, Crocodile added chaos everywhere and used conspiracy to try to usurp Alabasta's power. He wanted to get news from Pluton. For this reason, the entire Alabasta fell into turmoil, the rebels clashed with Alabasta's regime, and a large number of people died for it. It is said that pirates rarely die, but who cares about those who die in the corner without a name? During the turmoil, many soldiers of the resistance in Alabasta died. It's just that he watched anime in the previous life, and most of Oda's pen and ink was spent in Luffy's blood, and did not overly show the scene of a large number of deaths. Crocodile is dead. Next, the country will face only natural disasters. Lucas can't help this kind of problem. He believes in the people of this country and he has experience in facing such disasters. After all, people in this country have lived on this desert for a long time, generation after generation. Lucas looked at Crocodile and the fruit placed beside Crocodile. After staying for a while, it is a pity that his chances of getting devil fruit by his native method are not very good. Just as the white prostitution draws 5-star characters, the white prostitution also wants 5 stars. Wake up, stop dreaming. He did not get Crocodile's devil fruit, and none of the fruit has changed. Lucas picked up a piece of fruit, took a bite, and then glanced at the glass next to it. Behind the glass is the crocodile raised by Crocodile. Lucas took off the seastone handcuffs from Lao Sha, then he walked to the top of the stairs, drew out the knife, and cut out a chopping wave directly against the glass. The chopping wave smashed the glass directly, and a large amount of water behind the glass poured into the room, along with the crocodiles. Lucas turned and left. He did what he said. Advertisement. Alabasta has been extremely short of water in recent years, but Lao Sha's site has a lot of water resources, so he will let Lao Sha drink to his fullness. I like water so much, isn't it good to die in the water? The moment Lucas turned around, a large number of crocodiles leapt on Crocodile's body, splitting him to pieces. Walking out of the casino, there was already no one in the casino at this time. All the people were scared away by the incidents in the casino. Lucas was satisfied, and then sent a chopping wave to the casino behind him. The chopping wave in the amplifying state directly divided into dozens of huge chopping waves, which instantly knocked down the casino. Stay away from D-Dog and cherish life. Lucas was in a good mood, looked at Monet opposite, greeted each other, and the two went to deal with the members of the Baroque Working Society. At this time, throughout Alabasta, a large number of Marine and Alabasta soldiers rushed into various cities. When the royal family received information from the world government, they had already made a plan and together launched a thunderous blow to the Baroque Work Agency. The royal family of Alabasta aims to eradicate this organization and protect the peace of ordinary people in the country. The world government is actually for its own purposes. Eliminate the Baroque job clubs so that their countries of membership are not threatened. At the same time, they can also promote a wave of their justice for Marine and a wave of Lucas Rear Admiral. Pack the opponent once and become the leader of the new generation of Marine. Marine who is so active in dealing with pirates, Five Elders loves it so much. After all, in their opinion, only such a Marine is the easiest Marine to control. As long as the truth of 100 years of blankness is not leaked out, they will be able to stabilize Wu Yu. On the other hand, Sakazuki honestly listened to their secret orders. They feel that Sakazuki's adopted son will also be an obedient tool person, and they are willing to promote this young man. For this reason, they have had some controversies about Admiral recently. Several proposals of 5 elders: let Sakazuki, Kuzan, and Pelusolino become the 3 Admiral, and let Sengoku be promoted to Marshal. Several other 5 elders hold different opinions. They don't like Kuzan and Pelusolino, especially Kuzan. Advertisement. They believe that Lucas's S ability is also very good, and can suppress this matter. Lucas's S ability allows him to have the current strength at a young age. Wait a few more years, maybe it will be the next enhanced version of Burndy World Marine. And Lucas will be the same as Sakazuki and become their satisfactory tool. Therefore, these 5 elders propose to squeeze the selection of Admiral, and then find a time for Sakazuki, Lucas, and the remaining one to be promoted to Admiral, and Sengoku to be promoted to Marshal. For this reason, there was a controversy in 5 elders. They discussed for a while the question of, 1 Sakazuki is enough, and 2 tool people may be better. In the end, all of them, 5 elders, decided to try to support Lucas first and see how the other parties follow up performance. If they are satisfied, they don't mind making Lucas one of the 3 Admiral in the future to support each other. The Alabasta incident was the easiest first step for Lucas to create public opinion. At this time, the rainy ground. In a small alley. People lying on the ground, guns and swords scattered all over the ground. Lucas glanced at these Baroque workers. Then, the Alabasta soldiers who arrived late to the rain field met him and took away the people from the Baroque Work Agency. Lucas, who was chatting with Alabasta's people, didn't even know that Ishin had tolerated and was not at ease with the world government. At this time, 5 elders had already targeted him because of his adoptive father. And also trained him to become the second, honest, tool man. The pirate world, indeed, speaks about birth theory. Although Spandam didn't have any skills, he was fighting against the 5 scums. But the other party's father was a senior in the CP organization a long time ago, so he was promoted continuously in the CP organization at a young age. The same is true for Lucas. Although he has worked very hard, he is actually stigmatized by his background. Thank you very much for your help in our country. Ikaram stood in front of Lucas and thanked him. It's nothing, it's all things that should be done. Lucas waved his hand and said. Our Honorable His Majesty said that in order to thank you for saving Alabasta, we would like to invite you to a dinner with the king, and the king would like to thank you all, Ikaram said respectfully. It's so polite, Lucas said with a smile, and he was banned by the king twice this year. Chapter 133,131. Record the historical text of Pluton. For subscription. For monthly pass. For reward. Advertisement. Rain. Somewhere in a small alley. There was a lot of snow everywhere, and Monet himself was sitting on the snow. The adjutant Bell of the Alabasta escort who rushed over looked at Monet sitting on the snow in surprise. They also saw a lot of the same snow in other parts of the city. At first, Bell still looked at the slowly melting snow with a dazed expression. As the country of desert, Alabasta, why did there appear snow? The last heavy rain in a month was pretty good. They can't even think about it when it snows. It's just as incredible as a fantasy. And Monet explained the reason for him. Logia's demon fruit power. That's it. Bell nodded. Bell hurriedly let his subordinates get out the members of the Baroque Work Agency who had been frozen to death in Monet's large amount of snow. You are late. We killed the members of the Baroque Work Club in this city. Monet said, and walked several streets with Bell to find Lucas and Ikaram. A staff member of the world government ran over and handed Lucas a detailed piece of information. So that's it. Lucas took a look, then closed the intelligence, and headed towards Albana with Ikaram. And the information in his hand was handed over to Monet. In fact, it didn't record anything he valued too much. It is all this incident, and the world government has further investigated the Baroque Work Agency. Above are some other bases of the Baroque Work Agency in Alabasta that Lucas has not discovered, as well as the senior agents of the Baroque Work Agency. However, it is a pity that it is too early for Lao Sha to set up a Baroque Work Agency. Now the timeline is too early, and many senior agents of the original plot have not been recruited by Lao Sha at all. For example, during Miss Golden Week, this little girl's appearance time shows that she is 16 years old. It is now 10 years ago, which is too long. So, based on time, is 6 years old now during Golden Week. I don't know which corner I am still learning to do graffiti. Advertisement. Miss Valentine is not much better. She was 22 years old when she played. Now she is 12 years old and 6 years older than Golden Week. She is also a kid. And Robin, who was still in her hometown at this time, kept getting on the pirate boats, and the pirate boats she got on board were destroyed, and then continued to flee. There are also Bentham, Mr. 3, Miss 2 Fingers, and Mr. 1. These people are not in the Baroque workplace. Most of the remaining guys are bad guys. The Lao Sha organization was established too early. The senior agents were either the bottom-most senior agents in the original work, or the ones who hadn't heard of it, and even the intelligence analysis was very weak. So, these guys Lucas handed it to Monet, let her handle it, and let Monet get some credit by the way. By the way, the current Whiskey Peak has just formed a bounty hunter organization. After Monet has solved these people, he will solve them with Lucas. These are all credits given to her by Lucas. Albana is the capital of Alabasta, where the royal family of Alabasta lives. Monet followed Lucas and looked at him puzzled. Since the task was handed over to her, why not let her execute it in the first place? Lucas temporarily separated from Icolum and others on the grounds that he wanted to turn around in the streets of Albana. Lucas took Monet to an uninhabited alley. After seeing and feeling the color, he found that there was no one, so he looked at Monet with peace of mind. Do you believe me? Lucas looked at Monet and asked. Quote. Monet looked at Lucas puzzledly, then nodded. It was Lucas who saved their sisters. He took her on the marine road, taught her kendo, taught her how to develop hockey, and taught her a lot of life principles. It can be said that Monet originally made a tragic cry, but at the moment he met Lucas, he suffered a change. Deep down in her heart, she has always regarded Lucas as the most important person. For this reason, she felt that she could even die for Lucas. The two exchanged for a while. Lucas got Monet's response and smiled satisfied. Said something to Monet. Come to me at night, and you will perform the task after you have done this. Monet looked at Lucas in surprise and nodded quickly. She finally got the complete trust of Lucas. Advertisement. In the evening, after having dinner with King Cobra, Lucas returned to the room arranged for him. He was lying in bed, feeling the silence of the night, thinking of Alabasta's story over and over in his mind. In the original plot, King Cobra, followed by Robin, came to a statue, moved the statue to trigger the mechanism, and an underground space passage leading to the historical text appeared. Since Lao Sha had obtained some Pluton's information before Robin cooperated with him, and locked that Pluton's information was in Alabasta, there is a high probability that the piece of historical text recorded Pluton's information. Alabasta has two pieces of historical text, one is the one guarded by the royal family for generations. The other one is an original animation. The location of that one is uncertain, and it is in an underground ruin somewhere in the desert. So can Lucas infer that the piece of information guarded by the royal family is relatively more important and more important, which greatly increases the probability of Pluton information. Based on Robin's childhood experience and the psychological shadow caused by it, it can be concluded that Robin was still very afraid of powerful and terrifying weapons before the knot was untied. So, she saw Pluton's news and chose to compile a historical record of all parts of Alabasta to deceive Lao Sha. After all, the historical text is something created by Wanokuni. Wanokuni gave them the historical text after seeing the Alabasta royal family abandoning the identity of celestial dragons. I'm free to cross the sea to record the historical records of Alabasta everywhere, I'm free. It's fake at first. There is a great chance of Pluton information in the area guarded by the royal family. At this time, Monet quietly walked into Lucas's room. Monet glanced at Lucas who was lying on the bed with his eyes closed, and smiled triumphantly. Sample, see if you can escape this time. Monet felt that he could definitely win Lucas this time. Snapped. Lucas stretched out his hand and directly grabbed Monet's hand reaching his chest. Stop making trouble and start doing business. Lucas opened his eyes, glanced at the frustrated Monet, smiled bitterly and shook his head. Now they are in the palace, Lucas intends to rub down that piece of historical text, and Monet is responsible for guarding him. The two surreptitiously left the room, opened up their sights, and avoided all the guards. This is it. Chapter 134,132. Kata Curry. Lucas Rear Admiral is comparable to me. Please subscribe. Advertisement. Lucas stood in front of a sea cat statue. In the original book, King Cobra is the moving mechanism of the sea cat statue. However, after his observation during the day, there are many statues of the same sea cat in this palace. Lucas tried several directions to push in front of this sea cat statue, but there was no response. Avoiding the guards, Lucas and Monet came to the next sea cat statue. Push. No response. Replace a sea cat statue. After looking for several statues of sea cats, Lucas finally found the right one. As he finished pushing the sea cat statue, the ground not far beside him rose, and the sound of the chain turning came. Lucas walked in immediately, and Monet quickly moved the sea cat statue back. The passage to the underground space disappeared, and it was restored here. Monet hurriedly went into hiding, although there were no guards nearby and no sound was heard. But they still have to be careful for seconds. Underground space. Lucas sensed the surrounding situation, stepped on the stone ladder, and walked down. After walking through the long dark passage, Lucas came to the underground space. In his perception of color, he did not find the existence of any mechanism here. It seems that the royal family of Alabasta is very relieved about the safety of their underground space. It's right to think about it, if he is not a traverser, there is really no way to know this place. Lucas opened a door, and behind the gate is the stele of the historical text. 10 minutes later, Monet felt the situation in the palace, no one was around, and hurriedly pushed the sea cat statue. The mechanism was triggered, the passage to the underground space appeared again, Lucas walked out, Monet quickly pushed back the sea cat statue, and the mechanism closed. The two of them avoided the guards and returned to their respective rooms. Lucas was sitting in the room, and in his backpack stored the rubbed historical text. Lying on the boat, Lucas thought for a while. This thing, there are originally two places in the world that people can translate. One is Wano-kuni. The Wano-kuni Kazuki family has inherited this kind of writing from generation to generation, and Odin would have used this kind of writing originally, but he was killed by Kaido. At the time of Odin's death, Momonosuke was still young and did not inherit the knowledge to translate this kind of text. After a long period of research, Ohara also translated this text. However, Ohara has not revealed the scars of the world government. Advertisement. He was destroyed by the angry world government. It's like a junior high, who doesn't like others to mention her black history. In today's world, only Robin can translate this kind of text. If Lucas wants to know what is written on it, he must rely on Robin's knowledge. Sorrowful, Lucas rubbed his head. He is a Marine. In order to guarantee his identity, it is impossible to contact Robin. And he didn't want to hurt Robin either. The second day, Monet had left Albana early and went to hunt down the people from the Baroque workshop. At the invitation of King Cobra, Lucas stayed in the palace for a few more days. Living here, waiting for Monet to complete the task, Lucas was not idle. Taking advantage of his free time, he had a three-person contest with the two adjutants of the Alabasta Guard, Bell and Gaka. At first, Bell and Yaka thought they would be too bully if they beat Lucas alone. Then, Gaka was beaten to the ground. Bell flew high in the sky, flashing his wings, looking at Lucas in surprise. Lucas stepped on the moonwalk and quickly rushed towards Bell. He is better than me, and he can also fly, up. Bell hurriedly flew to the distance. You lost. Lucas rushed up, grabbed Bell, with the knife in front of him. So fast. Bell looked at Lucas in amazement. The two fell down, bewildered by the guards. The two adjutants of the guard have been defeated. In the distance, Princess Vivi, who was only 6 years old, looked at Lucas in surprise. Occasionally, Bell would secretly take her to the sky. But she did not expect that this Marine Rear Admiral named Lucas could rush to the sky and catch Bell. As expected of Lucas Rear Admiral, the leader among the younger generation of Marine. King Cobra clapped and looked at Lucas admiringly. Recently, many newspapers have reported some deeds of Lucas. Take time to hunt down Doflamingo and capture the Don Quixote family. Find out the talent and let the buggy bomb be used in Marine. Catch fugitives from the undersea prison. These are all things reported in the newspapers, over and over again, constantly talking about how good this young Marine is. Lucas listened to King Cobra talking about the newspaper, and quickly took over several newspapers from the guard. Advertisement. Quote? Lucas looked blank. These things have been happening for a long time, but why are they now being spoken out by the newspapers over and over again? Between the lines, he found that this was completely preaching his justice. But, the newspaper stated that he used a strategy in South Blue to capture the Don Quixote family. He clearly happened to meet Doflamingo when he went out without reading the almanac. Also, he was already running out of strength to fight, and he decided to lose to Katakuri if he continued to fight. Can the newspaper say that he is equal to Katakuri? What an international joke. Lucas felt someone brag about him in the newspaper. But now he is just a small rear admiral. In Marine, his rank is much higher. Who is using the media to promote him? Who is he worthy of bragging about him? Lucas did it aside and fell into deep contemplation. It cannot be a reporter who admires him, because the individual does not have such energy. But Lucas was speechless for a while at the newspaper that blew him twice. That's too much. After thinking for a long time, I couldn't figure it out. Cobra smiled and looked at Lucas with a frowning face. Some people were born with extraordinary talents and were born protagonists. In his opinion, Lucas is just such a person. At a young age, he reached the rank of Rear Admiral, and his strength is still so strong. This young man would be troubled by this kind of thing, and some people may not be treated like this in their lifetime. Oh, Princess Wei Wei on one side was holding a newspaper in her hand, looking at the newspaper, and hurriedly ran over and handed it to Lucas. Lucas looked at the contents of the newspaper and couldn't laugh or cry. This is a reporter interviewing Katakuri in IWC. The reporter asked whether Lucas Rear Admiral's rivalry with Katakuri was true. Katakuri nodded and admitted this. Lucas feels stressed now, even Katakuri says that they are on the same level. It seems that the amount of his training is going to increase, speeding up the speed of improving his strength. Chapter 135,133. The Baroque Workshop is over. Please subscribe. Advertisement. Originally, Princess Vivi saw Lucas's ability to step and go to heaven. Feeling too fun, she hurried to ask Lucas if she could teach her this ability. It's a pity that Princess Vivi was rejected even though she was so cute. She had to change her strategy, begging Lucas to take her to fly and play. This is all right. The princess of a country, I beg you to play with it, it should be. No, Lucas directly refused, and Princess Vivi's heart was crying. The princess. Selling cute. Rejected brutally. Why is this big brother so annoying? At this time, Lucas was training in an open space outside the palace, carrying on his back the stones that Belle asked the guards to transport, and doing push-ups with weights. Belle sat on the rock on one side, watching Lucas's such horrible training volume, admiring the other person. With such a strong strength at a young age, it is really impossible to do without a lot of training that ordinary people can't reach. Princess Vivi sat aside, shaking her legs and glaring at Lucas with her mouth bulging. Damn it, didn't even take her to play. At this time, Alabasta, some oasis city. A large amount of snow appeared outside the oasis, and quickly flew towards the man who screamed and ran away. No, don't come here. The senior agent of the Baroque Work Agency screamed, running fast, but his speed, where is the speed of these controlled snow flying fast? Ordinary people in the oasis were also surprised to see the snow that appeared. As they lived in the desert country, they would never see snow once in their lifetime without going abroad. A large amount of snow surrounded the body of the senior agent of the Baroque Work Agency, and the snow piled up, layer after layer, with more and more snow, just like a small snow-capped mountain. The heat exhaled by this senior agent accelerated the melting of the snow inside, but under Monet's control, the temperature dropped rapidly, forming a layer of ice inside. Losing oxygen completely, this senior agent was not frozen to death, but was directly suffocated to death. Monet came over, and behind her were several Marines who dug up the snow and took the body of the senior agent away. After several days of rushing, Monet wiped out most of the members of the Baroque Working Society hidden in Alabasta according to the information provided to her by the world government. Advertisement. Her ability is too strong, and she can also hockey, dealing with these members is simply sweeping. Monet stretched his waist and headed to Albana, ready to meet Lucas. A few days later, Lucas bids farewell to King Cobra and Princess Vivi and prepares to leave Alabasta. After giving the bounty hunters of Whiskey Peak to a pot, this time the Baroque Job Club incident in Alabasta was successfully concluded. The Santa Dora River is an inland river in Alabasta, connected to the sea. Lucas and Monet looked at the coming of his warship and walked up. Go to Whiskey Peak, Lucas waved. If those guys dared to be in Whiskey Peak, then he let Monet take care of those guys. If not, he puts a buggy bomb to destroy them. Marine found a lot of evidence of their misconduct against Alabasta from Baroque jobs. And some Baroque work clubs bribed the officials of the kingdom and prepared to stuff their own people into the palace to serve as evidence of undercover. However, Lao Shaw's ultimate goal has not been found. When these were handed over to the world government, 5 elders rejected the proposal to deny the Shichibukai system. Lucas was sitting on the warship with the phone worm in his hand. After listening for a while, he hung up the contact. Very helpless, it should have been a good thing for Brother Smoker, and it fell on him and Monet. After discussing with the upper management, he decided to return to Marineford as soon as he settled the participants of the Baroque Work Agency in Whiskey Peak. The headquarters will reward him, but he will not be promoted to Vice Admiral for the time being. And his subordinate Monet can be promoted to Major. Monet's strength is getting stronger and stronger, and when she arrives, she will be promoted to the upper ranks. And Sakazuki suggested that Lucas should be honed for a few more days, with rich experience and stronger strength, then talk about the promotion of him to Vice Admiral. Sakazuki is kind, because they are Marine, they need more than pure strength. There is also the experience of going to sea, and the experience of managing subordinates, there is too much to know. Only a Marine with rich experience, strong strength, and a heart of justice can be called the best Marine. Although Lucas became Marine in a short time, he was promoted to Rear Admiral. But Sakazuki doesn't think he has experienced enough, nor does he think he has his own opinion of justice. Advertisement. Lucas nodded, and when it was time to attack, he would attack, but when it was time to keep a low profile, he had to keep a low profile. This is reason. It is their Sakazuki who treats him well, knowing that everything can't be too anxious. After all, Lucas picked up the weight on the side, treated it as a knife, and waved it wheezing. Monet sat on the side to rest. Just after exercising, he was too hot to have a Lucas fan. I was so happy. A few days later, Whiskey Peak, the group of bounty hunters are still here. Lucas nodded. No accident. Lao Sha only contacted the senior agents among these people, and even if they did, they would only contact them by phone worms. Lao Sha was suddenly killed by him, and the world government in Alabasta temporarily suppressed the Alabasta incident. It will be reported after a few days, and the first half of the Grand Line is inconvenient. Only by word of mouth can it reach Whiskey Peak in the year of the monkey. The bounty hunters on the island didn't panic at all seeing the warships appearing in the distance. They are not afraid anyway, because their identities are bounty hunters. The bounty hunters caught the pirates and sent them to Marine base in exchange for the bounty. They saw Marine as a commonplace. Fire. Lucas ordered directly, and the gunner on the ship heard the order and loaded the cannonball into the barrel. Aim the cannon port on the shore. The bounty hunters looking at the warship on the shore panicked as they watched their guns aiming at them. The bounty hunters on this island all serve Lao Sha, and many of the money they robbed of the pirates will be shipped to the members of the Baroque Work Agency in Alabasta. Became the funding for Baroque's adverse actions against Alabasta. A buggy projectile flew out of the barrel, as Lucas increased. Turned into dozens of differentiated buggy bullets. One after another cannonballs landed on the shore and on the town of bounty hunters. The sound of deafening explosions continued to pierce the sky. Most areas of the island were affected by the bomb blast, and a large number of bounty hunters were killed in this terrifying explosion. Keep firing. Chapter 136,134. Monet's killing intent. For subscription. For monthly pass. For recommendation. Advertisement. Buggy shells continue to bombard bounty hunters on the shore, and even the town can hardly escape the bombardment of buggy shells. 10 minutes later, Lucas perceives the situation on the island, all is wiped out, and then orders to return. The warship turned and prepared to return to Marineford. Lucas was standing by the railing at the stern, looking at Whiskey Peak. The town of bounty hunters on Whiskey Peak has long been in ruins, and a scene similar to this was actually seen once in his childhood. That is, the island where he was on was blood-washed by pirates. Cries, houses burning, blood red everywhere, and the pirates' wild laughter holding the woman, scenes constantly appeared before his eyes. Vaguely, he remembered a pirate who turned to look at him when he was young, showing a fierce expression. Lucas sat on the deck and let out a soft breath. In fact, from the moment these guys worked for Crocodile, their destiny was doomed. Lucas strengthened his heart. It's okay. Monet sat beside Lucas, looking at his face worriedly. It's nothing, I remembered a bad memory. Lucas shook his head and took 2 sips of the drink that Monet handed over. At this moment, after a pirate ship entered the Grand Line from North Blue, it just arrived at Whiskey Peak. The yellow-haired pirate headed by looked at Whiskey Peak in ruins in shock. Even the land on the shore is not intact, and the ground is scorched. It's like being surrounded by a large number of warships and bombarded continuously. The yellow-haired pirate touched the land with remaining warmth and looked around in horror. Is this the Grand Line? Too horrible. ... Lucas's warship does not need to follow the record pointer to move slowly one island after another, because he has a permanent pointer. Directly across Little Garden, they passed by Drum Island. Lucas let the warship dock on the shore of Drum Island, where they were going to rest for a day before moving on. He took Monet, Buggy, and akin to a village. Advertisement. This island is a winter island, and it does not stop snowing all year round, and now, the Drum Country is still a world-renowned medical power. The medical technology here is advanced. Whether it is the doctors in the village or the doctors around the king, their medical skills are extremely superb. Lucas took someone to a tavern, walked in, and asked for some wine. According to the news he had read before, the king of the Drum Kingdom was still the old king, not Wapple, who was brutal and defiant of ordinary people. Lucas listened to the conversations of the people in the tavern, and realized that the doctors here are far superior to other places. The doctors here understand some things that the doctors in other places don't understand. Lucas remembers that Wapple participated in the World Summit as a king, 4 years later. Then the old king is very likely to die in the next few years. The sky in the Drum Country will also become dim and hopeless. If Wapple does such a stupid thing, the medical power will become a laughing stock. Lucas then thought, since Wapple did it, don't blame him. The first thing, he will recruit some doctors here. Directly take the money to recruit, how many doctors can take away, Wapple does not want these baby bumps, he will not let it go. And the second thing, there will be some little nasty tastes. Next, he asked his subordinates to go to the king of the Drum Kingdom to discuss the recruitment of military doctors, and then let his subordinates take the money from his warship to recruit those doctors. How many recruits can be recruited, and then ask the headquarters for money. In the evening, the subordinates returned to the warship and met Lucas, saying that the old king of the Drum Kingdom had invited him, and promised to cooperate with them in recruiting military doctors to join Marine. Lucas happily and his men came to the place where the old king lived. ... Welcome to you, Lucas Rear Admiral. The old king of the Drum Country happily took Lucas's hand and invited him in. Close the door to isolate the roaring cold wind outside. The old king took Lucas to the dinner room, and at the same time introduced Lucas to his son. The old king looked at Lucas's face with joy. He knows Lucas and pays attention to many things about the other party, and he understands that Marine, who has been promoted to Rear Admiral at a young age, has an unlimited future. The opponent's strength is so strong, it must be a Marine with a good future. If you have a good relationship with each other and are on the Grand Line, maybe the other party can help them in the Drum Country in the future. After all, in addition to the advanced medical technology of the magnetic Drum Country, other capabilities can be said to be very poor. It is cold all the year round, and domestic production is far inferior to other countries. Advertisement. Soldiers can deal with some ordinary pirates. If it is some big pirates, they can't resist at all. Making friends with a powerful Marine is a good choice in the eyes of the old king. Hi. And Wapple didn't listen to the old king at all, and stared at Monet squintingly. This female Marine is so beautiful, and some are lovely. She put on a military uniform, which made him even more excited. Lucas also noticed Wapple's trash every move, and sneered inwardly. Monet's coldness was more terrible than the weather in the Drum Country. Wapple provoked Monet, it was pure excitement. It seems that the decline of the Drum Country is inevitable. He is Marine, and he cannot kill Wapple in the face. Unfortunately, if he knew the whereabouts of the Revolutionary Army, he would definitely introduce the Drum Country to them. Had a dinner. Lucas and several main men lived in the room arranged for them by the old king, and the old king and Wapple returned to their respective rooms. Sitting by the window, Lucas listened to the wind and snow roaring outside the window. This is the opposite of Alabasta, it's Monet's home court. As the night darkened, Lucas was doing push-ups in the room. He was accustomed to a lot of exercise, and couldn't sleep at all at this time, and he had suffered a backstab from a card 2 before. He felt more pressure and the training became more and more urgent. Who knows which horn is at the corner, maybe a super boss will pop out and give him a beating. Standing up, Lucas felt the heat after the event and sat on the boat to rest for a while. And in his perception of color, Lucas discovered a funny thing. In the corridor, Wapol drove away the guards, and according to his memory, he came to the door of a bedroom. In this bedroom, Monet is resting here. Wapol squeezed his hand. He was only 19 years old this year. Seeing a beauty like Monet, he couldn't help feeling irritable. Just as he was about to reach out to push the door, the old king's call came from the corridor. Wapol was so frightened that he stopped quickly and walked away. Wapol hurriedly went to the old king and scolded the old immortal fellow several times in his heart. In Lucas's room, Lucas almost couldn't help laughing. Wapol, the lucky one, was a little too close, and was about to be sealed by Monet. After all, in his perception, Monet had already looked at the door, and a lot of snow was condensed on his palm. Chapter 137,135. Wapol's behavior of bringing dutiful sons. Subscribe. Ask for monthly pass. Ask for recommended ticket. Advertisement. Wapol returned to the old king's room and took care of the old king. He took care of the old king to fall asleep again, sitting next to him, looking at the old king, who was getting worse and worse, lost in thought. Although the health of the old king is getting worse, the drum country is a world-famous medical power. Who knows when the old king will die under the treatment of those doctors? He didn't want to wait anymore. The king of the drum country, the master holds the rights, money, and army of a country, which has always been what Wapol has been looking forward to. He looked at the sleeping old king, and couldn't help but slowly stretch out his hand to the old king. As long as he kills his father, then the drum country will be in his palm in the future, and the beauty, money, power, and army will all be under his control. As long as one of his new laws is passed down, people in this country must live under his rules and obey his orders. Wapol became more excited as he thought about it. His hand was getting closer and closer to his father's neck. He glanced at the quilt on his father's body and grabbed the quilt with the other hand, which would be better. By doing this, tomorrow morning, news of the old king's natural death in his sleep will spread throughout the country. As the heir, no one dares to doubt him. He will inherit the throne in advance and enjoy all the tempting rights. At this moment, Lucas and Monet, who were standing outside the house, glanced at each other. In this world, many people can hardly escape the game of rights and hearts, especially the children of royal families. Monet did it, and at this time, in the old king's room. The snowflakes came quietly into Wapol's clothes. Wapol's back was cold, and he took a breath. Wapol looked at the window. The window was closed tightly and the door was closed. He felt some snow melted by his body temperature from the clothes on his back. Wapol looked at various places in the house in surprise. Where did the snow come from? He glanced at his father, who was almost awakened by the sound of his exclamation, and quickly covered his father with a quilt, got up and walked out, closing the door of the house. When Wapol was far away, Lucas and Monet walked out from the corner on the other side. In Lucas's perception, the old king is still alive and has not been killed by Wapol. Advertisement. This B*******************. D. Monet squeezed his fists angrily by Wapol's conscientious behavior. How could there be such a bad guy in the world? People's hearts are unpredictable, not to mention the royal family. Lucas said helplessly, and then walked to the bedroom with Monet. Fortunately, they stopped Wapol's bestial act of bringing a filial son, otherwise the old king would die tonight, and they would not be held accountable. Even if they will not be kicked out of the team by Marine, it will affect their Marine career. This Wapol glows black from top to bottom. Lucas sent Monet back to her room, and without the guards finding it, he touched the outside of Wapol's room. Wapol used the doctor as a tool that he could use at will, and Lucas had to teach the B***************** DA lesson. Wapol got into his quilt, and Monet's beautiful cheeks still appeared in his mind at this time, and he fell asleep with a smirk. After a while, the door of the house opened quietly, and a figure quietly walked in, quietly opened the window, and then this figure walked out quietly, opening the door. After a while, Wapol shrank into the quilt, and the quilt directly covered his head. But the body still couldn't stop feeling cold. The cold wind blowing in from outside blew on the quilt, and the quilt was covered with a thin layer of snow blowing in from the window. Even though Wapol was shrunk in the quilt, he felt cold. In this case, it won't be long before this hapless guy will die in the cold. But Lucas didn't do everything. He investigated the patrol time of the guards in the corridor, passing Wapol's room every 8 minutes. Since Wapol fell asleep, the guards who had been ordered to retreat by the stupid started patrolling again. And Wapol is as fat as a pig, with so much fat and quilt, it is impossible to freeze to death in 8 minutes. Wapol was getting colder and colder, and the guards passing by the door looked helplessly at the wide open door. As soon as they were about to close, they saw the window wide open and covered with a thin layer of snow. He quickly ran over in horror, closed the window, then pulled off the slightly hardened quilt, and sniffed Wapol. Okay. The guard breathed a sigh of relief. Wapol was still alive, then he was fine. He used to be a guard by Wapol's side, but once he followed Wapol to go abroad, he saw this guy act on foreign women. Because of his blockade, Wapol transferred him to the guards patrolling at night. Later, Wapol's loyalty, the younger brother Chromoliman, beat him all night. This guard was very caring, and did not wake up the old king. After all, the old king was very good to the civilians of the country, and his body was the most important thing. Advertisement. The guard touched Wapol's head. It was okay, he couldn't die. He left Wapple's house slowly and slowly closed the door. Go to the doctor slowly. He was a faithful guard who discovered Wapple was ill for the first time, and he found a doctor soon. Well, as a loyal subordinate of the royal family, he is very loyal. No grudges at all. The second day, Lucas woke up early, and the old king came to the dining room with him. The two talked and laughed, and the old king asked the guard following him in a puzzled way. Why did his son not get up? The guard quickly told the old king that Wapple was sick last night and was under the care of a doctor. The old king heard that his son was okay, but he was sick, so he was relieved to go to breakfast with Lucas. At this moment, Wapple's room. Wapple was lying on the bed, the room was very warm, and a doctor sat on the side, taking care of the sick Wapple. The old king worries about this country every day, and his health is getting worse and worse, but fortunately, under their care and medical treatment, there is no major problem. But if they told the truth to the old king that Wapple was seriously ill from the cold at night, they were afraid of affecting the old king's mood. Sometimes, a person who is getting worse and worse, under such advanced medical technology, the most terrifying thing that beats him is often the shock of the soul. If one can't stand it, he may belch. These doctors know this too well. So I only told the old king that Wapple was sick and couldn't get out of bed yet and needed to rest and recuperate. Is it serious? Another doctor looked at his teacher. Serious. The old doctor nodded and said, nonsense, almost freezing to death, can it be serious? Following this, Wapple fell ill with a very serious illness, so he didn't lie down for a while, don't even think about sitting up. Chapter 138,136. Meet again with Rocinante. For subscription. For monthly pass. For reward. Advertisement. In a few days, Lucas, with the cooperation of the king, Marine's reputation, and the triple propaganda of money, recruited many excellent doctors from the drum country. A total of 5 old doctors and 8 young doctors were on board the warship. Lucas bid farewell to the old king, returned to the warship and left the country. Wapple was seriously ill and saved the old king's life in a disguised form, but he could not change the drum country. What kind of fate the drum country will face in the future is obviously not something he can control now. Wapple will recover one day. On that day, will this guy value the doctor because of his serious illness, or will he remain the same, continue to persecute the old king, and enact the damn-it law on this country? It depends on Wapple himself. He can take away a lot of excellent doctors, at least the talents of this country will continue to use their medical skills under his hands to save people. Waving goodbye to the old king, Lucas sat in the stern, watching the drum country gradually disappear from sight. Before leaving the climatic range of magnetic Drum Island, snowflakes kept falling. Lucas was holding a bottle of wine in his hand, looking at the direction of magnetic drum country, and sipping mouthfuls. Monet stood behind Lucas, she saw Wapple's terrible heart, and knew what Lucas was worried about. Monet placed his hand on Lucas's S, preventing him from drinking anymore. You have done what you can do, don't think about it anymore. Monet said, pulling Lucas's arm. Yeah, Lucas nodded. Received a newspaper from Monet. Huh, Peachy Island. Lucas looked at the news in the newspaper and couldn't help frowning. Isn't it a ladyboy? Puff ha ha ha. Monet couldn't help laughing. It's too straightforward to expose the scars like that. However, Lucas became interested in Peach Island. At this time, Ivankov should have mixed up with Dorag. In the near future, Ivankov and Dorag, the two will witness the fire in the kingdom of Goa. Lucas thought, if Ivankov can be found on Peach Island and Drum Island is introduced to them, I wonder if the Revolutionary Army has the guts to save Drum Country. The warship is guided by a permanent pointer, and passing by the Drum Island is just an accident. They will only follow the direction of the permanent pointer, all the way towards Marineford. Advertisement. During this period, there is no need to follow the route one by one island. One day later, they came to an island. To Lucas's surprise, the island they came to this time was another winter island. They really have a relationship with Winter Island. This is an island on another route. Lucas will let the warship stay on the island for 2 hours, rest for a while to replenish supplies, and then continue sailing immediately. Lucas perceives the situation of the island with the color of sight and hearing. To his surprise, this island has an accident, a surprise. Unexpectedly, he perceives 2 acquaintances on this island. Surprisingly, he perceives a pirate ship on the other side of the island, and there are pirates to fight. Lucas and Monet separated and came to this island alone. Keeping his perception of seeing, hearing, and seeing, Lucas came to the door of a courtyard. Rocinante sat in the yard and turned to look at Luo, who was standing on a stool in the house busy cooking. He smiled in relief. Luo, a clever boy, used it for a while, but he actually learned cooking, housework, sewing clothes, shopping. Luo has learned a lot of things he screwed up. Rocinante felt that he was so happy that he finally didn't have to bite the bullet and do those things. However, when he wanted to help, Luo, the brat, would show that kind of disgust. Luo, make one more meal. Rocinante finished speaking, ignoring the puzzled Luo, and walked to the courtyard gate. Opening the courtyard door, Rocinante looked at Lucas and gave him a big hug in surprise. Aren't you afraid that I will tell your news? Lucas said with a smile. Ha ha ha, you saved me and Luo, we don't mind if you say it. Rocinante joked. In fact, he was flustered. Who taught Lucas, he knew very well. But he wasn't sure what attitude Lucas had towards him and Luo, and even if Rocinante wanted to run, he estimated that he would be subdued by Lucas in the next few moments. After a while, in the room, Luo lowered his head, drank the hot porridge, and watched Lucas secretly from the corner. Advertisement. Unexpectedly, the big brother who saved them back then is now Marine Rear Admiral. They also sent the Don Quixote family they avoided into impel down. I'm not interested in Luo at all, but Rocinante, don't you miss him if you haven't been back for so long? Lucas looked at Rocinante and asked. Think. Rocinante sighed. Then he looked at Lucas. Just as Lucas knew Sakazuki well, Rocinante also knew Sengoku well. Sengoku will execute the orders of the world government. Rocinante will return to the marine team under Sengoku's interference, but Luo will definitely be handed over to the world government by Sengoku, and when Luo grows up, he will end his life miserably. In order for Luo to grow up smoothly, Rocinante trains him and makes him understand D's mission. Instead of letting Luo end his life for the longevity of celestial dragons. Lucas nodded. Everything is clear. He who understands op fruit, understands Rocinante's scruples. Don't look at me so nervously, I won't tell your news. Lucas spread his hands and told Rocinante about his action, indicating that he was really just passing by. Stop by and take a look at these two men. Sorry, I left without saying goodbye. I haven't thanked you for your help yet. Rocinante said ashamed. For Luo's safety, he had to be more suspicious. It's okay. Lucas waved his hand. After the meal, Lucas left some money for Rocinante, and then left directly. It was almost time for his warship to leave. Following the moonwalk, Lucas quickly came to the other side of the island, drew his long knife, and headed towards the location of the pirates. At this moment, standing on the street, drinking with a wine bottle in one hand, and a girl passing by in the other, the laughing frenzied pirate completely knew that death was imminent. Let go of me, you be asterisk 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 D. The girl struggled and slapped the pirate's arm. Don't be so ruthless, I have money, you look good, we are just a natural pair. The pirate said, drank the wine, threw the bottle to the ground, and carried the girl up. He is going to take the little brothers back to the boat for fun. Boom. The pirate suddenly felt a pain in his stomach, and he was kicked by Lucas who was rushing over. The girl he was carrying fell towards the snow, and Lucas caught the girl. Chapter 139,137. Invitation to Carnival Island. I'm Marine. For subscription. For monthly pass. For reward. Advertisement. Lucas put the girl down, then held knives in both hands, looking at the pirates who surrounded him. The captain pirate looked at Lucas and suddenly remembered the newspaper he had read the other day. Recognizing the identity of Lucas, he didn't think he and the boys could beat the Marine in front of him. After all, this is a strong man on par with Katakuri. Before he could call to stop, he was killed by Lucas. The sharp point of the knife pierced the pirate captain's chest, pierced into his heart, and then penetrated through the heart, piercing the blood-red blade from his back. Lucas drew the knife quickly, leaned to the left, avoided the long knife cut by the pirate, reached out and grabbed the guy directly, then held the knife backwards, and pierced the pirate behind him in his stomach. With a single stroke, Lucas moved at a high speed using the shaver, disappearing from the sight of many pirates. In the next moment, the pirates surrounded the place where he had been standing before, and a large number of swords and sticks fell into the air. Lucas came behind a pirate, swung his knife, and pierced the back of the pirate's heart. The pirate who reacted quickly turned and called Lucas. Lucas picked up the knife in his hand, smashed the pirate's sword and other weapons one by one, and then shuttled among the pirates, constantly flashing the light of the knife, killing these guys one by one. The pirates kept swinging, but their attacks were either avoided by Lucas or their weapons were blown away by Lucas. For a while, no one could hurt Lucas. The pirates were killed less and less until the mentality of being killed by Lucas collapsed. These pirates turned and fled one by one, without the courage to fight Lucas at all. The civilians hiding in the room opened the windows one after another, thanked Lucas excitedly, and looked at the few pirates who were running away. They cursed at the pirates in disgust. Arrogant, have the ability to continue to bully girls. The civilians one by one took the garbage and threw them at the pirates who were fleeing. Using the shave, Lucas moved at high speed to the front of the fleeing pirates, blocking them. The pirates took out their money one after another, trying to buy Lucas. Lucas put down the knife in his hand and walked towards the pirates. The pirates breathed a sigh of relief. Look, Marine looks like this greedy for money. Lucas stood in front of a pirate, glanced disgustingly at the money the pirate had placed on the ground, and then lifted the knife to directly overturn the pirate in front of him. Run! The other pirate hurriedly shouted, turned and ran. The other pirates quickly turned around to follow. One of the pirates plucked up the courage, took out the gun from his waist, and shot Lucas. Advertisement. Scum. Lucas swung his knife, cutting the bullet into two with one knife. Quote exclamation mark quote. The pirate who fired said badly, and they met a powerful character. They don't accept bribes from them, and they can cut bullets with a knife, and have the ability to move quickly. Sign. Lucas directly slashed dozens of chopping waves at these pirates who had fled. Faced with the fast and numerous chopping waves, the pirates couldn't dodge them at all. Puff puff. The pirates were hit one after another and fell into the snow one by one, staining the snow red. Lucas looked around, and all the pirates on this island were killed. But it is a pity that just such an opponent does not satisfy him. Lucas glanced at the girl he had rescued, then cut the knife and walked away, heading for the warship. Before the girl had time to thank, Lucas had come a long way. When she wanted to call the other party and ask them to have a meal to thank them, Lucas directly used the shaved high-speed movement to run away. Quote. The girl touched her face in confusion, rubbing her double ponytails. In fact, the first time she saw Lucas, she was still a little tempted. Such a handsome Marine, and she was even more tempted by the fact that the other party beat the pirates so well. Get to know the other person while you want to be thankful, and try to pursue it. It's a pity that this Marine didn't give her a chance. Am I not good looking enough? The girl fell into deep self-doubt. Lucas returned to the warship all the way, and all his men who went to the island returned. Lucas directly ordered the warship to head towards Marineford at full speed. Sitting in the captain's room, Lucas picked up a cup of hot coffee and looked at the winter island through the window. Rocinante and Luo live together here, and it seems that their lives are still going well. The clumsy Rocinante always messes up a lot of things, and Luo also takes care of the family affairs. Lucas couldn't help laughing, but he missed some of Sanji's cooking now. The chef on the warship, no matter how good he cooks, is not as good as his Sanji brother. Lucas picked up the phone worm and dialed Sakazuki's phone worm. Advertisement. The mission is complete. Yes, it's returning home. Well, when will it arrive? I will prepare wine and food. Can Sanji and the others pick it up? Quote. Sakazuki looked at the phone worm with a question mark on his face. Originally, he wanted to talk to Lucas a few more words. He thought the brat must have missed him. Result. Fart. Lucas has always been thinking about Sanji's food, koalas pouring, and playing with Luffy. The most worried thing in his heart is always those little guys, Sakazuki. Don't make trouble, everyone is Marine, and I haven't seen it for 3 or 2 days. It's not 4 or 5 years. Brother Lucas, when are you coming back? I miss you so much. Luffy's voice came. As soon as Lucas was about to laugh out of relief, he couldn't laugh out of Kid's words. Go away, you just miss your big brother taking you out to eat meat. Big brother Lucas, I miss you too. Kid patted Luffy's face with his hand, squeezed this guy away, and got the phone by himself. Worm microphone, happily talked to the eldest brother. Quote. Lucas can't laugh or cry, Lobo is still so cute. After chatting with the children for a while, Lucas hung up, put the microphone back in place, and then picked up a newspaper. The newspaper covered his face, put his feet directly on the table, and fell asleep. After sleeping for a while, Lucas was awakened. He stood up quickly, opened his eyes, and looked at Monet who walked in. Lucas breathed out. What's the matter? There are pirates. No. Monet waved his hand, placed a drawing on the table, and then placed a permanent pointer on the table with his other hand. Someone caught this in the sea, Monet said. Oh. Lucas took out the drawing, with a map of an island drawn on it, with some words written on it. Lucas also picked up the permanent pointer Monet gave him. Looking at these two things, Lucas looked at Monet. Here is the fun. Because this drawing, and the permanent pointer, are too familiar. Chapter 140,138. The Trap of the Ritual Baron. For subscription. For reward. For monthly pass. Advertisement. What if you are the words of the pirate among the pirates? Lucas read the doll trick on the drawing and laughed. Monet took the drawing and continued reading. Bring your trusted partner, come to this island. Puff ha ha ha. Lucas couldn't help but patted the table and laughed. Monet shrugged helplessly and motioned to you not to laugh. Lucas nodded and motioned for you to continue reading. This island is called Carnival Island. After reading the previous words, Monet put the drawing on the table, and, on this drawing, there are some words, saying that the Carnival Island has beauties, treasures, carnival parties, beauty salons, etc. All kinds of things that people want. Do you believe it? Lucas said, looking at Monet. Monet looked for a while, then glanced at Lucas's expression, shook his head, I don't believe it. That's not the end. Lucas stood up, walked to the door, and called in some of his men. Everyone, do you believe in this shit? Lucas grabbed the drawing on the table and handed it to several people. Then he returned to his seat and sat on the chair with his long legs on the table, smiling at a few people. I don't believe it, Akin said first. Buggy instinctively wanted to say the letter, but glanced at Lucas's expression, and quickly changed his words. Murloc Zachary took the drawing and looked at it with a frown. He once wandered in the sea, saw the world on the sea, and saw all kinds of traps. I don't believe it, Zachary said directly, shaking his head. Lucas glanced at a few people. Monet and Buggy hesitated, as you can see from their expressions. One was lack of experience, unable to judge, and finally felt that it was okay to believe in his ideas. And the other one is just simply too fond of treasures, but this guy is very sophisticated, he is afraid of Lucas, so he said he didn't believe it. Advertisement. This is a trap. The routine is very bad. The person who designed the trap is either unwilling or anxious to make people crash into the trap. After Lucas analyzed it, he held the permanent pointer in his hand and played with it. Several people were attracted by the permanent pointer he was playing with. Akin and Buggy looked at each other and they understood. The environment of the Grand Line is bad, people are sinister, and there are too many pirates. In such a place, there will be a paradise-like island. There are also drawings and introductions on the drawings. The most incredible thing is that it also comes with a thoughtful permanent pointers, do you believe it? Several people shook their heads quickly. Indeed, this sounds incredible. I felt great at first meeting. I want to go straight to this kind of place. But if you think about it carefully, they will find that there are many things wrong. Such a good island, like a paradise, often has drawings and permanent pointers sent out for lucky people to pick it up. Why is it that no one knows at Grand Line? Someone will have news, even if there are treasures there and robbed, somehow it will be known to outsiders. But unfortunately, no one knows this paradise island of Carnival. Permanent pointers are often given, but no one knows. Are all those who went to Carnival Island dead? Lucas sat opposite, watching these people fall into thinking. In fact, he is not unfamiliar with these things. These are the drawings and permanent pointers sent by the Baron of the festival. The Baron of the ceremony was a pirate in Roger's period. Many years ago, when Roger was still alive, not long after the Baron of the festival met Roger, he lost all his partners due to a storm. And he drifted to a deserted island, because he couldn't bear to be alone, and he lived in deep self-blame and regret every night. So he made a contract with Lily Carnation on the island and began to cooperate. The Baron of the festival disguised the island again, turning the island into an island with a carnival party, and the benefits of the island were written on the drawing. Treasures, beauties, carnival parties, etc. all kinds of tempting things. Because these people who are attracted will accept the warm hospitality of the festival Baron, and then after a slow exchange, he will use various opportunities to secretly destroy the feelings between the team. In the end, constantly provoking, let the team fall apart, and even conflict. The Baron of the ceremony will take the opportunity to grab an individual who is alone and give Lily a carnation part of the body on the mountain, the huge plant without flowers. Lily carnations eat the living people, thereby helping the Baron of the festival revive the opponent's companion. Advertisement. In this way, the Baron of the festival saw his companion resurrected, and his despair faded away, and he had the company of his companion again. The Baron of the ceremony concealed what he had done to his companions, and the lily carnation was just a harmless-looking flower on his shoulder. The part that swallowed life was growing on the mountain, and that part was invisible and many people couldn't see it. The Baron of the festival felt the return of his companions, and he was out of control since then, constantly sending out the drawings to lure outsiders, and then repeating what he had done before. Continue to let lily carnations devour life. Lucas sighed and looked at the others. Several people looked at Lucas, ready to wait for each other's reply. This guy is tricking the pirate into his trap, but his deception is not just the pirate who can be fooled. We Marine can pick it up, and the civilian boat is very likely to pick it up. With so many temptations, people who can't help but tempted to go to Carnival Island, saying that they are likely to be killed by this person. We don't care about the life of the pirate, but this guy may be a crazy guy. To prevent civilians from being killed by him, I decided to find out. After Lucas finished speaking, several people nodded one after another. Give the permanent pointer to the navigator and let the warship speed up and rush towards the Carnival Island at full speed. Disperse everyone, let them discuss it for themselves, and talk to the Marines. And Lucas, sitting in the room by himself, took out a stack of rewards from his drawer. This stack is collected by him, the data of the pirates in the first half of the Grand Line in Roger's era. Flipping the bounty, Lucas found the reward for the Baron of the festival and stared at the bounty. Lily carnations on the shoulders of the Baron of the festival can swallow life through that part of the body on the mountain. This kind of thing is too dangerous and must be eliminated. A few days later, on the shore of an island, Lucas took a knife and stepped off the warship. Standing on the beach, he perceives the situation of the island with his sight and hearing. But Monet and others followed one after another. Lucas wanted to come to the drawing and looked at the map of the island above. Taking a few people to the front, Lucas did not go to find the Baron of the festival at all, but walked towards the huge plant on the mountain in the perception. The Baron of Ritual was hiding in the forest at this time, watching Lucas and the others come to the island triumphantly. Then he can deceive the group of Marines. Chapter 141,139. Uniform Festival Baron. For subscription. For monthly pass. For reward. Advertisement. The Ritual Baron has had enough of countless nights of loneliness, and self-blame and regret constantly haunt him. Now as long as someone goes to the island, he will go to great lengths to set traps for these people, so he doesn't care whether the opponent is a pirate or a Marine, even ordinary people, he will not miss the harm. Through his method step by step, there will be suspicion between these people, and a little bit to make these people no longer believe in each other or even conflict. In this way, he can sneak attacks on the single people, and then give lily carnations to eat. The Ritual Baron left quietly, already condemning Lucas and the others to death in his heart. As everyone knows, Lucas, Monet and many others have already noticed this guy. Waiting for the Baron of the ceremony to go away, Lucas looked at the others. It seems that there is a real problem. Ah Jin said and took up his weapon. As long as the Ritual Baron takes a shot at them, he will smash this guy's dog's head. And the people in a Jin's squad, under a Jin's queue, also use the colors of sight and hearing to perceive it. They also spotted the sneaky Ritual Baron. The Ritual Baron realized that he had mastered the situation. How did he know that this group of people had discovered him? Lucas took out a reward from his pocket and handed it to the people behind him. This guy is a pirate, we can kill each other directly. Lucas said, a group of Marines grabbing their knives and guns excitedly. Participate in a competition and then participate in a rave party. No, although the Baron of the festival has disappeared in the world for a long time, at one time Marine thought that the other party was dead, and the world had forgotten his existence. But Lucas discovered the existence of the Ritual Baron in a stack of rewards. Even if the Baron of the ceremony quibbled and pretended to be an ordinary person, he wouldn't believe it, so he just caught this guy and talked about it. At this time, the festival baron, who had returned to his companions, asked his companions to prepare for the game first. But he himself was sitting in the distance, lost in thought. In fact, when he saw Marine came to this island, he was still very scared. Advertisement. But he didn't want to abandon his companions, nor did he want to leave Lily Carnations. He never wanted to live without a companion anymore, only Lily Carnation could resurrect his companion. Then he thought about it, he hasn't appeared in front of the world for a long time, as long as he and his companions lie together that they are only residents of this island, isn't it all right? Today he saw that most of the Marines who landed on the island were young Marines. He probably didn't remember the unnamed pirate who died in Roger's time. The companions were so important as his life, and the idea of killing Marine kept reverberating in his head. The ritual baron's brain was hot, and for the sake of his companions, he risked killing the group of Marines. Only, it's a coincidence, Lucas has a habit, that is, wherever he goes, there must be a lot of rewards in his room, and even the details of certain pirates he cares about. But the luck of the ritual baron is not so good, he is the type of pirate that Lucas has always cared about. As early as many years ago, Lucas had been looking for information on pirates who had appeared in the plot. It is a good habit to gather intelligence to know yourself and the enemy. So Lucas's emphasis on pirate intelligence is the first. At this time, Lucas had brought his team directly to the site of the baron of the festival. Welcome all the guests from afar, and the residents of Carnival Island welcome your arrival. Machigoluo ran up and greeted warmly. Although the captain did not tell him why he was asked to pretend to be an original resident, the captain's words were always correct. He did not question it, but did so. You wait a moment. Lucas clapped his hands, and Muchigolo looked at each other dumbfounded. A Marine came up. He took out a large stack of rewards from his backpack, looked at the people in front of him, compared their appearances, rummaged for a while, and found some rewards to Lucas. Rear Admiral, these are these people. Marine pointed to the people on the reward, and then pointed to the people in the distance. Seeing this, the ritual baron stood up awkwardly, watching Lucas and the others vigilantly, ready to fight at any time. Lily Carnation really did bring his companions back to life, at least in his opinion. Now that Lucas discovered the identities of these pirates from a long time ago, he did nothing, and directly led his companions to defeat them, and then he fed these people to Lily Carnations when the companions were not paying attention. What do you want to do? These terrifying eyes, as if to eat us, tut tut. Lucas suddenly appeared in front of the baron of the festival. In the heart of the baron of the festival. Advertisement. The ritual baron looked at Lucas in horror. How did this guy suddenly come to him? Lucas did not answer, and then moved the knife up and placed it in front of the small flower on the shoulder of the baron of the festival. This is one part of Lily's carnation, and the other part is on a mountain. You should take a look at this. Lucas smiled and slapped a newspaper in the hands of the ritual baron. The baron of the festival looked at the news above, which reported that the Lucas warship bombed Whiskey Peak into ruins. The ritual baron was in a cold sweat, got goosebumps all over, and his back felt cold. The opponent's weapon is so terrifying, then. The ritual baron understood what Lucas meant, because Lucas clearly understood what was going on with the little flower on his shoulder. If the opponent evacuates the island and bombs the island, then the island is bound to be turned into ruins. And that part of Lily's carnation on the mountain will also die. Another point, Lucas's knife was placed in front of the little flower on his shoulder, which was also part of Lily's carnation. As long as there is something wrong with them, Lucas can solve him and Lily Carnation in one stroke. Stop it. The baron of the festival hurriedly shouted to his companions. The pirate who was about to clash with Marine quickly stopped and retreated at Marine's request. Lucas threatened the ritual baron and asked him to follow him out. Rear Admiral, do you need to collect these people's weapons? A Marine asked quickly. No need. Lucas shook his head. If he wants these pirates to disappear, it's just a matter of knife. Don't let them follow, Lucas said to the baron of ceremony. The ritual baron glared at Lucas angrily, and had no choice but to let his companions stay where they were. Lucas threatened the ritual baron with a knife and walked directly towards a mountain with the man. In his perception of color, there is a huge plant there. Chapter 142,140. Destroy a pirate group with one sword. For subscription. For reward. For monthly pass. Advertisement. Taking the ritual baron all the way to a mountain, Lucas sensed the huge plant in the distance and looked at Monet. Understood. Monet nodded and pointed at the huge plant with one finger. She can also perceive the existence of huge plants. A large amount of snow flew towards the huge plant, and under Monet's control, it was about to snow seal the body of Lily's carnation. Suddenly, huge plants emerged, turning into countless arrows flying towards Lucas. When the ritual baron saw that they were about to destroy part of Lily's carnation, he had already desperately thought. According to the other party's statement, he did not let his companions follow, but the other party still wanted to destroy Lily's carnation. The ritual baron could not tolerate it. Without Lily's carnation, his cherished companion would no longer exist, and he would not allow this to happen. Lucas kicked the baron of the ceremony to the ground, then raised his knife to the sky, and the arrows that flew towards them cut out 36 consecutive chopping waves. In the state of multiple increases, speed and strength have been increased, and slashes have also been increased in number and volume. 36 slashing waves flew in the air, splitting into a large number of huge slashing waves in an instant, destroying a large number of arrows in an instant. Then Monet's large amount of snow formed a snow wall to block them in front of everyone, and arrows stuck in the snow wall. The petals of the small flower on the shoulder of the ritual baron withered strangely, and the small flower turned into a gray monster with black spots, and the small flower's torso instantly lost the characteristics of a plant, and the body appeared in front of everyone like a human tumor. Lucas looked to the side of the ritual baron. This guy's face became more gloomy, and he looked at Lucas and his party mockingly. Here is the main body. The baron of the ceremony couldn't help but laugh. Xiaohua's body grew bigger and bigger, and then opened her mouth wide, her body lengthened, and bite towards Lucas. At this time, Monet kept building the snow wall thicker and higher, preventing those arrows from flying. The ritual baron doesn't care how much Lucas knows the truth. He just wants Xiaohua to kill Lucas and eat the bad guy. Puff. Lucas cut Xiaohua's body with a stab. Xiaohua fell down, and lost contact with the baron of the ceremony. No, don't. The baron of the festival panicked instantly and flew forward, trying to get his little flower back. Because only it can resurrect the companion of the baron of the festival. Puff puff. Lucas quickly smashed the so-called little flower, and then shrugged and looked at the failed guy. Ah, the baron of the festival stared at the dead lily carnation in disintegration, and the arrows that were still flying towards here fell and disappeared. Lucas glanced at the rotten little flowers. It turned out that this was the body of Lily's carnation. Hi, he thought it was both. Xiaohua is the main body. Thinking about it this way, the solution to this monster is really a simple batch. However, letting the subordinates take a look at the two bodies of Lily Carnation can also be regarded as letting the subordinates understand the original appearance of this monster. This sea is too big, and there are still many magical islands that have not been explored. Maybe there are terrible existences in any corner. Advertisement. Or the weird demon fruit power. Letting the subordinates take a look at these weird things today will also make them more cautious in the days to come. Sometimes, caution is not a bad thing. Just have a degree in everything. The ritual baron collapsed and knelt in front of Xiaohua, and stretched out his hand to grab the rotten thing. He kept crying in sorrow, his strength is too bad. The other party was not deceived by him at all, and his luck was very bad. These young people actually knew him, the pirate who had disappeared for a long time. Directly caught him with hard power and killed his Lily Carnation. All of this is so powerless, just as desperate as those who had been caught by him before they discovered the truth, and just happened to be swallowed by Lily's carnations. The ritual baron kept crying, and his body kept trembling. At this time, his companions should have died with the death of Lily Carnation. The ritual baron paid no attention to Lucas at all. Although he knew that his companion was very likely to die, he kept lying to himself and went back to take a look. Maybe the companions are still alive. A Jin was going to kill this guy directly, but Lucas stopped him. He is crazy. A Jin silently looked at the figure that was going away. What some people fear most is not death, but living alone in the world. For this kind of person, the disappearance of his last trace of comfort is the beginning of his collapse to the madness. But, Lucas Rear Admiral, why are you keeping up? Drive this pirate crazy, do you still have to catch up with it? Devil. Lucas did not block the departure of the ritual baron, and followed the ritual baron all the way to the place where they met. The ritual baron looked at the man lying on the ground heartbroken. He burst into tears and ran up quickly, holding his companion in his arms, calling out his companion's name vigorously. At this moment, he once again felt the pain of losing his companion. Regrettably, he cried on his back and screamed through the buildings, but no one of his companions responded to him. The scenes that scared him once again appeared in the mind of the baron of the festival. The storm came suddenly, and the pirate ship was overturned by huge waves. He was in the sea, calling out the names of his companions over and over again. But the only response to him was the cry for help from his companions. He hurried to save people, but the waves shot him away again and again, and he swam past again and again. One of his companions died in the shipwreck. The companions looked at him in despair, pain and helplessness haunting their hearts. The ritual baron kept crying in pain, his voice hoarse. Advertisement. Only, Lucas on the side could see clearly where the ritual baron was embracing his companion's body. What he was holding was clearly a tree trunk with 2 leaves on the trunk. The collapsed baron of rituals has hallucinated. He looked at the large number of tree trunks at the scene, and in his eyes, they were all the bodies of their companions. The ritual baron suddenly woke up from his grief. By the way, he wanted to take revenge. The baron of the ceremony picked up a sword on the ground and rushed towards Lucas with a sword stabbed. Facing the worrying swordsmanship of the baron of the festival, Lucas directly avoided. A slap in the face of this guy. This slap completely awakened the baron of the ceremony. Lucas pointed to the large number of tree trunks, his voice low. Is this your companion? No, it's impossible. The baron of the festival felt shocked. How could he be an illusion before him? He has been cheated by Lily Carnations all the time. The baron of the festival walked along with a disheveled hair, and came to the photo of him and his companions. Suddenly turned around to look at Lucas. Tell me, these are fake, you tell me. Quote. Lucas kicked the ritual baron to the ground. What a hateful and pitiful idiot. In the end, he found out that all his companions were Lily Carnations deceiving him. Didn't your companion died in the sea? The ritual baron's mind is blank, yes. He raised his head and looked at the sky, as if he had seen his companions again. They were all waving at him, saying goodbye to him for the last time. The baron of the festival just bowed his head. Lucas put the group photo in front of him. Countless lonely nights, and then countless days of being deceived by that monster, you are very happy to live. Ah, the ritual baron went crazy. pushed Lucas away, and ran to the corner alone and got into the grass. Lucas glanced at the trunks, but some of his words were actually made up. In fact, he didn't understand that these trunks were just lily carnations, pure illusions that deceived everyone. It is still said that lily carnations can really resurrect the dead in another way through these trunks. There was no reason for him, because when Lucas came, he couldn't distinguish the true and false of these pirates by his sight, hearing, and perception. Lily carnations are too weird. Chapter 143,141. The singing of the magic triangle. Seeking subscription. Asking monthly pass. Asking recommended ticket. Advertisement. Lucas touched the trunk in front of him, then pulled the trunk straight out of the ground. It seems to be just an ordinary tree trunk, and in his perception, the tree trunk does not have any peculiarities. But he knew that in the original work, these, resurrected, companions of the Baron of the Festival actually had a battle with Suo-da and others during the game. Advanced illusion, or some kind of magical and unknowable ability. Lucas threw the trunk aside, stepped forward, and sent the ritual Baron to see his companion. Taking his subordinates and returning to the warship, Lucas directly ordered to continue towards Marineford. This plot is actually original by the animation team. To go to the Grand Line, either with dreams, or for treasure, or for the pirates who challenge the strong, they first need to enter the Grand Line from Upside Down Mountain. They have 7 routes, and the last 7 routes will eventually pass through the Magic Triangle, and then through there, to Sabayati Archipelago. Then they can coat the film to the Fishman Island and enter the New World. This area of the Magic Triangle is very large, and it is shrouded in an indispensable mist all year round. Lucas stood on the deck, looking at the foggy area that was clearly separated from the normal sea in the distance. He smiled and turned and looked at the navigator behind him. Okay, you have a good sailing skills, abruptly brought them here. Lucas suddenly felt that his warship needed to recruit a good navigator. Go straight through. Lucas waved his hand and said without blaming. Understood. Marine hurriedly picked up the permanent pointer and went to find the helmsman. The Magic Triangle area is very large, covering all 7 routes. If you want to go to the Sabayati Archipelago, you either go through it or spend a lot of time detouring. Although the area is large, it takes a lot of time to get around. It depends on the individual. Lucas and the others have permanent pointers and are not afraid to get lost in them. The warship drove into the mist, and Marine, who had the color of sight, turned on the color of sight, perceiving the surrounding situation. Lucas sat in the bow of the ship. He had read the newspaper before, and Moria was still active in West Blue. And Cinderella just fell off the stage and died not long ago. It is estimated that this time, Moria has just recruited the genius surgeon Kobakic. Moria hadn't come to the Magic Triangle yet. Lucas looked at the dense fog around, feeling a little regretful. Advertisement. If Moria is here, he can find a reason to kill Moria. Shichibukai. Anyway, I don't listen to the call of the world government very much every year. I slaughter 1 or 2 and make up 1 or 2. Moreover, according to the inertia of the world government, as long as you give some reasonable reasons, he will let the media promote the justice of Marine. Hello, did you hear anything? A Marine stood by the railing, looking at the thick fog in the distance and asked his companion. Is there any sound? Another Marine came up curiously. I did hear it, it seems there is music. What a joke, how could there be the sound of music here? Another Marine waved his hand, resolutely not believing it. However, when he came here, he also heard music. As the warship sailed farther and farther, the music became smaller and smaller until it disappeared. These Marines looked at each other, and they hurried to talk to others, but they didn't believe it much. Lucas returned to the captain's room, sipping hot coffee, flipping a copy of information about some pirates of the Grand Line in his hand in recent years. There was a knock on the door. Enter. Squeak. Several Marines walked in, looked at Lucas Rear Admiral, and told each other what they had just said. Huh. Lucas listened, smiling at several people. If you are too tired, go back and rest for a while, don't think about it. Several Marines also wanted to talk about making Lucas believe it was true, but they were all kicked out. Lucas looked at the closed door, then looked out the window. In fact, he also heard Brooks' voice just now, but he didn't want to stay here anymore. The warship quickly shuttled through the thick fog of the Magic Triangle, and the navigators kept adjusting their positions. Not long after, they left this area. Next, they will return to Marineford. When Lucas went back this time, he made an appointment with a senior, and they would talk about some hockey's use and their usual experience in dealing with pirates. Of course, the predecessors taught him mainly. Walking out of the captain's room and on the deck, Lucas felt the sunshine outside the Magic Triangle. Advertisement. Picking up his knife, called a Marine of the 2 teams to practice against him. During this time, 2 more people developed armament hockey. Lucas was very pleased. It is worthy of being his subordinates. The strength of the armed forces of these 2 people is not bad, and he will find an opportunity to help them promote their ranks when they go back. Monet sat on the side, sweating all over. She had been exercising for a long time. Seeing that Lucas started to abuse food again, she smiled and looked at it. Afternoon. Marine Headquarters Marineford. On the shore, Hina stood in front, quietly waiting for Lucas's return. This time, although she didn't help much in the Alabasta incident, Hina will also participate in the awards given that she found that Crocodile had misconducted Alabasta. There is hard work without credit. However, what made Hina feel more helpless is that Lucas came back several days late and Sakazuki had already left for New World. This time, apart from Koala's mother and her, as well as Zachary's girlfriend, the Murloc, all are a group of kitties who were looking forward to Lucas's return. When Lucas contacted her, he often talked about the little guys Luffy, Sanji, Kid, Koala, BABY5, Sugar, and some orphans that Koala's mother had just taken over. A warship slowly appeared in the sight of everyone, and as they approached, everyone could clearly see who was standing on the warship. Hina waved to Lucas. The children behind her shouted excitedly, "Big brother Lucas." As the warship docked on the shore, Lucas walked down, said hello to Sister Hina, and then looked at the little ghosts that surrounded him. "Are you obedient?" Lucas knelt down and grabbed Sugar's little nose. "Some and some, we are very obedient." After Sugar finished speaking, she handed one of her grapes to Lucas's mouth in a magnificent manner. Lucas ate the grapes and patted the sugar head, causing the little guy to laugh. "Brother Lucas, let's go home. I want to cook your favorite food for you." Sanji took Lucas's hand. What Lucas loves most is all kinds of fish, and he bought it for this. "I bought a lot of fish to make some delicacies." Chapter 144,142. Cooperate with Kong Ming Vice Admiral. For subscription. For reward. For recommendation ticket. Advertisement. The second day, Lucas walked out of the house. I saw the senior he was looking for. Marine Kong Ming. The opponent is good at using strategies to deal with the enemy, is a marine who believes in marine justice and has a great sense of responsibility. Lucas found each other just to ask him some questions. Kong Ming has long hair and a thin, sharp beard. He sits on a chair in a pub with a fan and looks at Lucas Rear Admiral, who has been waiting for a long time. Armed. Kong Ming looked at Lucas in confusion. Yes, Lucas said his thoughts. He wanted to learn Kong Ming's use of armed color. He can't do internal damage for the time being. Let's learn Kong Ming's trick first. Combine the armed colors with the feather fan to arm the feather fan, so that the feather fan has the ability to change its shape freely while increasing its attack power. Kong Ming said modestly that he said that his talent was mediocre, and he was not good at being armed or something. Also praised Lucas for his excellent talent. Lucas almost laughed. This kind of nonsense also fooled others. Kong Ming would use the kind of armed color technique he knew, and he could also harden the whole body armed color. Such a person can be considered very good. Although I can't say that he is the most talented person, but he said that his talent is mediocre, and Tenten is talking about it, it's a bit too much. Kong Ming's armed color skills, as well as the hardening of the whole body armor color that he can do, are considered mediocre. So many people who even hockey can't develop, are they not fighters in the trash? However, I do have a trick to teach you. Kong Ming glanced at Lucas and suddenly laughed. If you have any requirements, please do not hesitate to order. Lucas said. No, everyone is marine, and I will not make any personal requests. I just want you and me to eliminate some pirates, nothing more. My trick is actually very simple. When I destroy the pirates with me, I can teach you slowly. Kong Ming slapped the fan and looked at Lucas with a smile. No problem. How many pirates, how strong are they? Lucas asked with interest. Kong Ming put down the fan and shook his hand to Lucas. My goal is to eliminate the pirates of 20 pirate ships, but I have one condition. Please say. Advertisement. You try not to take action, but use this to eliminate the pirates. Kong Ming pointed his head with a fan. No problem. A word is settled, Kong Ming said happily. A word is settled. Lucas looked at Kong Ming and nodded. You promoted buggy bombs before. After Kong Ming finished speaking, he took out 2 kinds of mushrooms from his clothes. You later found this kind of mushroom. It played a very good role in Marine. Some of our undercover agents used it successfully. Things got mixed into the pirate's meal. Kong Ming laughed, and then recovered his calm. The hapless pirate group did not even lift the knife or shot a bullet, so it was arrested by us. These are 3 pirate groups with demon fruit power. Kong Ming was happier as he talked, and put away the mushrooms. After that, buggy bombs and chai waste mushrooms defeated and captured many pirate groups for us. You proved to me from the side that as long as the equipment is good enough and some plans are used, even ordinary people can deal with pirates. Thank you. Lucas waved his hand and said modestly. Actually, the waste chai mushroom should have been discovered many years later. And buggy bombs are also what he used to coerce and lure Buggy into his subordinates. None of these things were made by him. Kong Ming praised him so much, Lucas was really embarrassed. Kong Ming coughed twice, and then looked at Lucas seriously. So, I want to be with you to prove to everyone that you can deal with pirates without superpower. Lucas nodded, thought for a while, and looked at Kong Ming hesitantly. Intelligence is very important, and the same force is also indispensable. Quote. Kong Ming nodded. Indeed, there is only resourcefulness and no strong strength. This is why he is still Vice Admiral until now, and will still be Vice Admiral in the future. He did say a bit too much. After all, it would be difficult for him to use wisdom to deal with people like Kaido. Many things must have an appropriate degree. Resourcefulness is very important, but in the same way, force is also an indispensable condition. The two discussed for a while and decided to go to sea again in 2 days. The two picked it up, found a marine base, and started their plan. To this end, the two negotiated, in order to achieve Kong Ming's purpose, to prove his idea. Advertisement. Therefore, the two will only make countermeasures during the period, and in most cases they will not take action. Similarly, under Lucas's suggestion, they did not bring too many subordinates, and only used Marines from the Marine branch. Nor does it apply to Sengoku for military support. One person brings two subordinates, Lucas said. Good. Kong Ming nodded. Then the two found Sengoku together. Boom boom boom. Please come in, Sengoku said, flipping through the documents on the table. Oh, Sengoku looked at the two people who walked in. One was Kong Ming, who impressed him with tactics, and the other was Lucas, who quickly rose up shortly after becoming Marine and threw the Don Quixote family into Impel Down. These two have a good strategy, and the other is very powerful. I don't know why the two of them came together to see him. Lucas and Kong Ming looked at each other, then stood up and told Sengoku their plan. Sengoku looked at Lucas curiously. The kid Tenten yelled to chase the big pirate. What is the problem today? They even said that they did not take action, but made plans to let their subordinates eliminate a large number of pirates, to prove that ordinary people can also deal with pirates. You are a monster yourself, don't you think it's wrong to do such a thing? Have you discussed where to go to the Marine branch? Sengoku asked. These two people were only in the branch for a short time, and he didn't disagree. Crane Vice Admiral used to run to North Blue twice in 3 days, Garp Vice Admiral returned to East Blue to visit relatives in 3 days twice, Aokiji, this unreliable B************ D, somehow disappeared. It's no big deal for the two of them to go to the branch. West Blue. Sengoku looked at Kong Ming in surprise, this guy. He used to call Tenten to use a strategy to catch a big pirate and borrow troops to prove his idea. Why did you pick a West Blue? Shouldn't it be the first half of the Grand Line or New World? West Blue nowadays there are many underground forces, fighting with each other constantly, and there are many pirates. I think that the guys of the underground forces are no less threatening than the pirates, so I decided to take this opportunity to attack the underground forces of West Blue and the pirates. Lucas said. Sengoku nodded and agreed. Only, Lucas actually wanted to attack Moria when he and Kong Ming acted. Moria is still in West Blue, and Capone Bej is also in West Blue, these two people he wanted to fight. Chapter 145,143. Lucas v*********9. Seeking subscription. Asking monthly pass. Asking recommended ticket. Advertisement. After discussing with Sengoku, the two left here. Came to a restaurant, Lucas invited Kong Ming to dinner. We are simply attacking ordinary pirates and those from the underground forces. Isn't it a bit too bad? Kong Ming asked while eating. Indeed. Lucas put down the glass and began to recall that he had read West Blue's information. He thought of someone. Daz Bonus. This guy is still just an excellent bounty hunter in West Blue, occasionally doing some killer activities, as long as others give money, he kills people. In the original plot, he will be recruited by Sir Crocodile to the Baroque Work Agency many years later, known as Mr. One. The opponent is a person with the ability to cut fruits quickly, and can turn any part of the body into a blade. Although the other party has not yet taken refuge in Crocodile, Lucas remembers that when he read the other party's information, it was written in the record that he had killed many civilians in response to the killing mission. This one made Lucas determined. He took out a piece of paper, wrote the name of Daz Bonus, and handed it to Kong Ming. He is. Kong Ming looked at Lucas puzzledly. The ability to cut fruits is very strong. This guy can be the main target of the plan, Lucas said. Then Kong Ming asked some more details about this person, and Lucas answered them one by one. Kong Ming looked at Lucas in surprise. When did this young man remember West Blue's information so clearly? Knowing yourself and the enemy can win every battle. It's good to know the detailed information of the opponent. Kong Ming looked at Lucas with satisfaction. This young man is not only excellent in strength, but also well prepared. After dinner, separated from Kong Ming, Lucas walked towards the house alone. In fact, he did this with selfish intentions. Acting with Kong Ming, you can first learn the other side's armed X skills. Secondly, he wanted to find Moria and Capone Bej after arriving in West Blue, and fight with them. If you can, try a dumb way to see if you can get their devil fruit. As for using their plan to deal with these two people, Lucas is optimistic about the devil fruit abilities of these two, so he just wants to kill them by himself and try to get devil fruit. A shadow fruit, a strong city fruit, whichever one is good. Advertisement. When the time comes, the fruit will be given to his loyal subordinates. After a one-night rest, Lucas walked out of the house early the next morning, and he was going to the training ground to train. At this time it was still dark. Lucas walked into the next room, looked at Luffy and the others who were asleep on the bed, smiled and walked out and closed the door. What a good childhood. Leaving home, all the way to the training ground, Lucas began to practice kendo. At the same time, a man in a white cloak came over, his face cold and staring at Lucas. After receiving instructions from the upper level, let him come and try the opponent's strength. He is a member from CP9, who has already practiced the 6 forms to ultimate, and has a good hockey. I heard that you and Katakuri are on the same level. The CP9 came over and looked at Lucas. Lucas turned his head and looked at each other. Who knows? Lucas waved his hand. He often explained to others that he really couldn't beat Katakuri. But unfortunately, no one believed it. So now he no longer argues. Huh, let me see how strong you are. The CP9 member snorted coldly, moving at high speed with the shaver, and instantly came behind Lucas, calling him finger pistol. Lucas also used the shave, moving at high speed to the back of the opponent, and cut it off with a single blow. Who can shave a Matryoshka? Have the ability to continue to attack with shaved. The CP9 member turned around in an instant, with the soles of his feet covered with armed color, and kicked Lucas's knife away. The kicking foot landed, and then another kick was kicked out instantly, using Tempest Kick to kick a slash at Lucas. Lucas opened the slash with a single blow, and then entered a speed-increasing state, slashing several times at the opponent. The CP9 was covered in armed color and completely blocked Lucas's knife. The members of the CP organization have to receive cruel and strict training from an early age. They were born to serve celestial dragons. It exists in mind to protect celestial dragons, and is always loyal to the killing machine of celestial dragons. Celestial dragons don't care if they have been cruelly trained since they were young and whether they hurt their bodies. The 5 celestial dragons in power asked him to conduct an experiment on Lucas and use his full strength, even if he was injured. Advertisement. If Lucas passes, 5 elders will reuse Lucas and support him. If it doesn't pass, the injury will be injured, and 5 elders won't care about Marine's life or death. They are so cruel. After all, if in this experiment, even if Lucas killed the CP9 member, they would not pursue Lucas. On the contrary, he will be more willing to support Lucas. Lucas just about to continue rushing forward and hit this CP9 member with a knife. The opponent's body changes, like a fierce beast. Zone-capable person. Lucas looked at each other unexpectedly. Paper Arts martial body. CP9 members maintained their human beast form, freely controlling their bodies, and their statures quickly became stronger, possessing Zone's power, speed, and energy saving. The only shortcoming is that his power is smaller than the normal Zone human beast form. Using the shave, he moved at high speed and came behind Lucas. His hands quickly and all round towards Lucas's back, shooting countless finger pistols. Lucas covered his entire body with armed color, and while blocking the opponent's large number of finger pistols, he entered a speed-increasing state, slashing 36 knives instantly. The CP9 member was forced back by Lucas. He backed up and kicked a Tempest Kick slash against Lucas. Lucas Young cut out a wave of slashing, directly opening the opponent's slashing. Looking at the other party, Lucas understood that the other party had entered a state of return of life and used the same trick, finger pistol Madara, as Lu Chi. Return of life, Grandmaster's 6 types, zone-capable people, and excellent hockey. Lucas has to say that this guy's strength is still very good. It's a pity, it's a CP member. If it's Marine, it would be great. The CP9 member used the shave, and instantly came to Lucas's back, with his fist covered with armed color, and punched Lucas on the back of the head. Lucas unloaded his strength. Like paper, his soft and flexible body directly avoided the punches from the opponent. With a knife falling, the CP9 member hurriedly covered his body with armed color and blocked it. Lucas hit the opponent directly. Take some of your tricks, Lucas said. This CP9 member stood up and looked at Lucas. Next, he has to use the highest profundity that can only be achieved by practicing the 6 forms to ultimate. Chapter 146,144. End Abuse CP9. Guion. For subscription. For monthly pass. For reward. Advertisement. The CP9 member directly kicked a slash with Tempest Kick against Lucas. Lucas also raised the knife and swung fiercely, making a chopping wave. The CP9 member seized the opportunity instantly, moved at high speed with the shaver, and appeared behind Lucas like a teleport. Lucas's speed is far beyond his imagination. Just when the CP9 member was about to take a shot, Lucas turned around and slashed at the opponent. The CP9 member used paper arts, bending his body flexibly, avoiding Lucas's knife. Lucas is holding the knife in his right hand, and directly hitting finger pistol with his left hand to the face of the CP9 member. CP9 members use paper arts to avoid finger pistol physically. The long knife made a sound of breaking the wind again and slashed at the CP9 members. In the state of increasing speed, Lucas instantly slashed 36 chopping waves while using the number increase. CP9 members used shave and quickly avoided, watching the massive chopping waves flying out in horror. If it weren't for him to run fast, then in the next moment he would be shredded and broken into a puddle of mud. Lucas also used the shave to come behind the opponent. Since this guy is going to fight him, of course he is willing to accompany him. Swinging the knife, repeating the same trick once again, the CP9 member once again used the shave, came behind Lucas, and performed the highest sense of 6 forms. The two of them fought in the shaved dolls almost constantly. However, how could Lucas continue to remain in such a stalemate? He is much faster than the opponent. Before the opponent had used the 6 king spears, Lucas turned to face the opponent with 36 chopped waves. This CP9 has just used the 6 styles 6 king spear, and Lucas's 36 chopping waves have completed the increase. 36 chopping waves suddenly split into a large number of chopping waves. At the same time that the CP9 members' 6 king spears were fired, the chopping waves were about to hit him. CP9 members were covered in armed colors, and they blocked these chopping waves, and their bodies flew backwards. He suddenly looked at Lucas in shock. This guy had disappeared before the shock wave from the 6 king spear arrived. Shave. No. He suddenly realized that the other party disappeared just now. It was simply the performance of the ultimate speed. Faster than shaving. Has this guy played for so long without using his real whole cards? Damn it. Advertisement. He realized that he was the strongest person among CP9 members in recent years, but he was a little unwilling to see Lucas's simple speed so fast. Boom. He was driven away by a large number of chopping waves, knocked down a tree, and kept flying backwards. Opening his eyes, seeing, hearing, and perceiving, he wanted to capture Lucas's position. Do you have this strength? Lucas suddenly appeared behind the opponent, his fist covered with armed color, and a punch hit the opponent's head. The CP9 member flew upside down before landing, and was beaten up again. Relying solely on speed, Lucas came to the front of this CP9, covered with armed colors on his feet, kicked this guy's stomach, and directly kicked the opponent again. Wow. The CP9 member sprayed blood and flew backwards again. He had nothing but fear for Lucas now. Even though he thinks he has a good talent, he has been training very rigorously since he was a child. But facing the speed of Lucas, he had no resistance at all. Lucas once again appeared behind the opponent, and instantly retracted the knife into the scabbard, grabbed the opponent's arms, and then kicked the opponent's back. After hearing only two clear noises, Lucas severely broke the opponent's arms. The CP9 member was sweating, and his body was trembling constantly. Even if his arms were interrupted by the opponent, there was no sound. Is this your strength? It's funny enough. Don't challenge me so arrogantly next time. Lucas kicked the CP9 member. He had clearly felt the other party's killing intent just now, and he should be cruel to deal with this kind of guy. Otherwise, this kind of mad dog will continue to challenge him, even trying to kill him when he is crazy. Not bad. At this time, outside the training ground, a CP0 member watched Lucas's performance with satisfaction. Unfortunately, the opponent is a Marine. 5 elders asked them to test the strength of Lucas. 5 elders meant very clearly that Lucas could be injured, and that CP9 member would be fine even if he was killed. The CP9 member itself is a trained killing machine, which is the perception of this CP0 member. Therefore, Lucas broke the CP9 member's arms and he didn't think there was any problem. I'm very sorry, my subordinates caused you trouble. The CP0 member came up, grabbed the CP9 member who collapsed on the ground, and said to Lucas blankly. Nothing. Lucas waved his hand. Watching that person take the CP9 members away, Lucas knew their identities. The only thing that is very puzzled is, why should they test their own strength? Advertisement. He is Sakazuki's subordinate, it is impossible to join any CP organization, and it is impossible for him to be born. I haven't seen the CP organization specifically to test the strength of Marine before, after all, the two sides are different organizations. CP directly belongs to Celestial Dragons. Marine is a military agency on the surface, responsible for combating pirates and maintaining world order. The two organizations can't fight each other. What is going on today? If it is said that the opponent deliberately challenged him just because of his strength, that would not make sense. Wherever there is a CP9 challenged him, there is a CP0 who evaluates him from a distance. Who on earth noticed himself? 5 elders. Lucas shrugged helplessly, took up his weapon, and started practicing kendo. 2 days passed in a blink of an eye. Lucas took Monet and Akin, boarded a warship with Kong Ming, and headed for West Blue. Lucas sat on the deck, and Sakazuki went to New World again, until he left and did not return. Sakazuki did his duty and Lucas wondered when he and the other two became Admiral. According to the information he saw in his previous life, Pelusolino was promoted to Vice Admiral only in recent years. According to data, Sakazuki and Kuzan were already Vice Admiral when they destroyed Ohara Buster Call many years ago. Moreover, Lucas did not find any information on when the three were promoted to Admiral. What are you thinking about? Guillaume, wearing a cloak, came over and looked at Lucas curiously. I'm thinking Guillaume Vice Admiral, you are so beautiful, when will you become Admiral? Lucas said with a smile. Sweet mouth. Guillaume looked at him with a smile. That's right, this time they went directly to the warship in Guillaume and headed to West Blue. Each of them only picked 2 subordinates, in order to prove Kong Ming's ideas, so they didn't use their own warships. And Guillaume went to West Blue to perform the mission, just to take these 2 people and their subordinates. Guillaume glanced at Marineford, Admiral. She understood that there were a few others in front of her, and it was not her turn. Chapter 147,145. The Colonel who embezzled military expenses. For subscription. For monthly pass. For reward. Advertisement. West Blue. The gang Capone Beige is from West Blue. Many years later, he unified the underground forces of West Blue. After that, he had the idea of going to sea. Capone Beige likes to take the enemy's first level for fun. In the future, Blackbeard's navigator Lafitte, originally a security officer for West Blue, was notorious for using excessive violence and was expelled. He is also currently acting solo in West Blue. And the magic triangle where Lucas's warship passed before, Brooke, who made music, was also from West Blue. The future Mr. One of Baroque Jobs, now a bounty hunter named Daz Bonus, is also from West Blue. And the redhead Shanks, he is also from West Blue. Lucas was standing at the bow of the ship, looking at the scenery of West Blue. He was thinking now that since Kong Ming Vice Admiral said, they are just making suggestions and don't need to do it themselves. So can he take advantage of his free time to kill Amoria or Capone Beige? Thinking of West Blue's Daz Bonus, Lucas suddenly remembered something. Bentham did not join the Baroque Job Club during this time, and his information shows that he was born in East Blue. I don't know what Bentham is doing at this time. Except for training, he is now tasked all day long, and he has very little free time. I really want to go to East Blue. The 133 branch is here, I wish you all the best. Guillaume came over, patted Lucas and laughed. I wish you success in your mission and become Admiral as soon as possible. Ha ha ha, that's a joke. Lucas stepped off the warship and went to the 133 branch of West Blue with Kong Ming, and his men followed behind them. Branch 133 is a strong fortress island with strong defense. The island is surrounded by a high mountain, with the marine branch in the middle, and there is only a narrow entrance from the sea on the north side. And on the mountain outside the fortress, there are holes one after another, where there are a few cannons. A cannon aimed at the distant sea. Although there are few cannons, few pirates are willing to come here to cause trouble. As long as you are trapped in a narrow passage, it is a dead end. Standing in the space inside the mountain, Lucas looked at the cannon and then at the structure of the facility. Advertisement. The colonel on the side just about to report to the two of them, they waved their hands. They could tell what was going on at this base. Lucas looked at the Marines patrolling the facilities inside the mountain. There are not enough artillery, and the number of seamen is also small. Lucas looked at the colonel. Take out the records of your daily expenses. Yes. The colonel hurriedly responded and went to get the record, while Monet and Akin followed him. There are too few cannons and few seamen, far below normal standards. Kong Ming Vice Admiral also found something wrong. The 133 branch is the branch they both discussed and selected. Both of them know how much funding this branch has each year. After Lucas visited the internal facilities of the mountain, he came to the most important place of this fortress branch. To enter the fortress requires a narrow passage, and on the mountain above the passage, there should be trap facilities. As long as the pirates dare to break through, they will be killed by traps in the narrow passage. Lucas came to the top, but what made him speechless was that the ancients knew that throwing stones down from the castle tower to hit the enemy. This group of guys didn't set traps on it at all, not even the simplest stone traps. It's terrible, Lucas said silently. The two returned to the facilities inside the mountain and saw the colonel who had returned. It's just that, the colonel's face is not pretty. Report to Kong Ming Vice Admiral and Lucas Rear Admiral. I found 2 records in his room. Akin completely ignored the colonel's glare and handed the 2 records to the two of them. The one that Lucas took was fake, and the one that Kong Ming took was real. According to Akin's report, when he directly and mercilessly took out the real record from the floor hidden by the other party, the colonel tried to buy him. As a result, Akin and Monet were beaten up. You have embezzled so much military expenses, you are 2 guts. Kong Ming Vice Admiral stared at the colonel angrily. Quickly tell, who else is embezzling military expenses with you, or I will kill you on the spot. Lucas drew his knife in an instant, and the sharp knife lay across the opponent's neck. Just myself, the colonel said, crying, shaking his legs in fright. Quote. Lucas is numb. Advertisement. This guy has the courage to be like this, and he has the courage to embezzle a lot of military spending. Although the sky is high and the emperor is far away, there are more or less such scum in the world. But this is the first time he has encountered a guy who has seldom conscripted Marine and has embezzled military expenditures to such an extent. Such a guy, how will he go to court? Lucas asked Kong Ming, Vice Admiral, who was behind him, actually for the major in front of him. Military disposal. Kong Ming Vice Admiral said, his tone was cold. Too kind. Lucas shook his head. However, Lucas was surprised. The colonel was frightened and begged for mercy only when he heard the 4 words of military law disposal. The other party directly confessed, biting out all the people who had embezzled military spending together, and he said one by one how much military spending had been embezzled. Lucas gaped. Good fellow. He didn't even use the big move. Before he said the word torture, this guy was already scared. Being afraid of death to climb to the colonel's position is really embarrassing to Marine. Lucas ordered Monet and Akin, and Kong Ming Vice Admiral ordered his 2 subordinates to attack and directly arrest the others. Lucas and Kong Ming's Vice Admiral were also told about the hiding place of the military expenses that the other party had embezzled. Late at night, Lucas and Kong Ming sat face to face in the office. Monet, Akin, and Kong Ming's 2 subordinates had already led the warship out to sea, and they wanted to get back the military expenses. If they don't get it back, their plans will be affected in the future. On the way to West Blue, Vice Admiral Kong Ming taught Lucas his own armed S*X skills. Lucas looked at the colonel's confession, not laughing or crying. This guy and several other ensigns were greedy. 2 ensigns are each other's younger brothers. Moreover, when they embezzled military expenses, they lived every day with fear. The amount of military spending embezzled by them is huge, but they dare not spend the money. However, even if they didn't spend a penny, they still had to go to court, and in the end they would still be dealt with by military law. Although I have heard about it, I really came to West Blue and found out how bad the management of Seahai Marine is. Kong Ming said with a sigh. They Tenten are desperately running for justice, but after all, the sky is high and the emperor is far away, and a small part of the scum Marine still exists. Chapter 148,146. Take him to court. For subscription. For reward. For monthly pass. Advertisement. Lucas looked outside through the window. Since the time they came, the weather around the 133 branch has not been very good, with heavy storms and dark clouds. And now, a lot of mist has risen on the sea again. By asking the Marines in the base, we know that the Marine branch base has bad weather all year round. There are more than 20 days of stormy weather in a month. Half of the time, the whole day is shrouded in fog. In the rest of the time, the night will be shrouded in fog and there will be no fog during the day. Lucas suddenly came up with an idea based on the harsh environment here. He wrote this idea on paper, and Vice Admiral Kong Ming looked at him curiously. It wasn't until Lucas finished writing that he handed the idea to Vice Admiral Kong Ming for review. Oh, Vice Admiral Kong Ming held Lucas's thoughts in his hand, seeing the end from the beginning. So that was the case, he nodded, took out his pen, and made some slight changes to the plan. The two exchanged some ideas, decided on the plan, and then continued to improve the plan. Noon on the second day. Lucas sat on the wide training ground in the middle of the 133 branch. In front of him, a part of the seamen were training. After his inquiries, he learned that the colonel who embezzled military expenses not only embezzled military expenses, but also didn't care much about the daily training inside the base. This fortress-style marine branch should have a lot more military expenditure than other branches of West Blue. But this colonel dared to swallow part of the money for his subordinates' daily meals. As a result, he didn't want to manage daily training, and the Marines didn't have the energy to take the initiative to train more. That is to say, the base of this branch occupies a geographical advantage and the environment is extremely harsh, so no pirates are willing to provoke them. Otherwise, this place will be beaten by big pirates every minute. And Lucas is here, and it won't be long before the huge military expenditure will be taken back. So Lucas asked the chef to cook more meals early in the morning, and then under his order, the Marines trained for the whole morning. Advertisement. Use a little bit of strength, the posture is not standard. Lucas stood up, walked to a seaman, and yelled. The other party was still a little bit resistant and looked at Lucas dissatisfied. Before Lucas came, they seldom trained. It's good to be training for half of a month. The new Rear Admiral actually let them practice all morning, the requirements are still so strict. One Rear Admiral, one Vice Admiral, what exactly the two want to do, he really can't figure it out. Isn't it good to stay in the headquarters? If you behave well, I will catch you a sea beast tonight and let you eat it open. Lucas shouted loudly. Hearing that they could eat the sea beasts, they still ate them openly. Most of the Marines instantly became interested, gritting their teeth one by one and training vigorously. In addition, let me tell you the good news that your original colonel will be sent to court for military law. And the military expenses he embezzled will also be recovered. These military expenses will be used for the facilities, weapons, and your daily diet of this base. As Lucas finished saying this, all the Marines cheered and looked at Lucas gratefully. Their lives will not be so bad in the future, and military spending will no longer be embezzled, and the money they take will no longer be deducted. In fact, those Marines who embezzled military expenses can be killed on the spot. But Lucas is about to send the opponent to court, so that all bastards who have the mentality of, the emperor is far from the sky, have a look at what the end of this scum. Last night, Lucas made contact with Smoker, who was far away in East Blue, and the two had a conversation about Marine falling in the sea. When Smoker first arrived in East Blue Log Town, he also arrested a base officer who had colluded with the pirates. He agreed with Lucas's proposal. Smoker also said that he would let his subordinates secretly collect some evidence from other Marine bases in East Blue, those Marine who colluded with pirates or embezzled military expenses. At that time, after Lucas sent his embezzled military expenses colonel to court, Smoker will take several scum Marines from East Blue to court. Lucas looked at the seamen in front of him for training a lot, nodded in satisfaction, and continued to practice armament hockey. Kong Ming Vice Admiral's armed color skills are actually easy to learn. Compared with external release and internal destruction, it is much easier to learn. Lucas took the cloak he was wearing in his hand, covering it with the armed color, and then the cloak combined with the armed color, instantly turning into a long and sharp spear. Under the influence of the armed color, the cloak combined with the armed long spear is extremely hard. Lucas shot through the stone placed aside. The seaman behind him looked at him with admiring eyes. Advertisement. As expected, Rear Admiral from the headquarters is so strong. Even a cloak can be used as a weapon. Lucas did not know that at this time, many of these people had become his obsessive brothers. With a wave of the spear in Lucas's hand, the length of the spear continued to extend. The tip of the spear pierced a tree far away. This technique is really practical. Lucas removed his armed color with satisfaction, his cloak was intact and returned to normal. Kong Ming Vice Admiral's use of this armed color is great. He thought of Kong Ming, Vice Admiral Tenton, who said that he was not talented. Nonsense. Old Versailles. Can the whole body be hardened with armed color, and also come up with this practical and magical application technique of armed color? This is also called mediocre talent. Awesome. Kong Ming walked over and looked at Lucas and exclaimed. It took me a long time to understand this kind of armed X technique, but you used it for a few days. You deserve to be the best among the younger generation of Marine. Vice Admiral praised Kong Ming, fanning his fan. It's okay, so. Lucas said with a smile. In other words, Kong Ming Vice Admiral said for a long time, how long is it? A week is a long time, and a month is a long time. Sure enough, this guy's words can't be trusted. We are back. At this time, the warship was docked on the seawater inside the base, and Monet and others stepped off the warship and shouted. Inside the base, there is a dock for warships, and most of the other places are land. The Marines on the warship happily carried boxes one by one, and placed military expenses on the shore. They finally found the military expenses that the former base officer had embezzled them from a deserted island and took it back. Lucas came over, and other Marines who had been training also looked at them excitedly. Thanks for your hard work. Lucas looked at Monet and Akin, and then said to the Marines on the warship. Everyone who has recovered military expenses, rest for half a day in the afternoon, and I invite you all to eat sea animal meat in the evening. Chapter 149,147. Lafitte's killing intent. For subscription. For reward. For monthly pass. Advertisement. Coates Island. This is a completely impossible island in West Blue. The streets are full of pirates, underground forces, bounty hunters, and human traffickers. In the surrounding waters of the island, there are 2 currents Uzumaki, and after the current Uzumaki, there are a large number of submarine reefs. Akin and Shiroki were walking on the street. The marine uniforms on the 2 had long been changed to plain clothes, and the 2 dressed up as pirates. Shiroki is Kong Ming's vice admiral's subordinate. Lucas and Kong Ming let the 2 of them pretend to be pirates and mix into the island. Everything went well. No one recognized them. Ah Jin walked to a tavern and sat at the bar with Cheng Mu, asking for 2 bottles of wine. Boom. A bearded pirate came over and slapped the knife directly in front of Ah Jin. Behind the bearded pirate was dozens of pirates, each of them holding guns or swords in their hands. Hey, the 3 of you get out right away. We will occupy this bar. The bearded pirate said while looking at Ajin, Shiromu, and the man drinking in the corner. I want to say no. Cheng Mu slapped on the bar table, glaring at each other. At this moment, the man sitting in the corner drinking, raised his head and looked at this arrogant guy. His name is Daz Bonus, and he is an excellent bounty hunter and a fast-cutting ability. Then I will throw you out. The bearded pirate shouted angrily, grabbed his knife, drew it out, and lay it across Ajin's neck. Ajin didn't look at the other person at all, and drank the wine on his own. Since you want to pretend to be a pirate, you must pretend to be the coldest-blooded one. It's just a broken knife, nothing to be afraid of. Looking for death. The bearded pirate looked at the 3 and still didn't go out. The seats in this pub just happened to be squeezed by his people. They wanted to have a drink here, but the 3 of them were so uninterested. He directly applied force and cut the knife towards Ajin's neck. Kang. The knife slashed on Ajin's neck. However, Ajin was armed. After drinking the wine, Ajin stood up and took up his weapon. The weapon was covered with armed color. Ajin directly interrupted the bearded pirate's knife. Shoot. Just as the bearded pirate was about to retreat, Akin grabbed his shoulder directly and placed this guy in front of him and Shiromu. Bang bang bang. There was a gunshot, and the boss was already scared to hide under the bar. Advertisement. Cut people. Daz Bonus posed, his body instantly became as hard as steel. 1 bullet hit him, but the bullet hit him without leaving a trace. After the pirates had shot the bullets, they quickly prepared to change the bullets, while other pirates with swords and swords rushed up and slashed at the 3 of them. Go to hell. Ajin snorted coldly, and threw the sieved bearded pirate aside, picked up his weapon, rushed directly up, and knocked these people to the ground one by one. All the swords that fell and slashed at him were easily avoided by Akin. Cheng Mu also rushed up with a weapon. Fight against these pirates. Get out of the way. Daz Bonus shouted loudly. Ajin and Chengmu hurriedly came behind each other. Moat slash. Daz Bonus turned his fingers into blades, folded his hands on his chest, and slashed directly forward. Puff puff. One by one, the pirates were chopped up, whether it was the pirate who fought close in front, or the pirate gunner who was holding a gun to change ammunition, all were chopped into several pieces. Daz Bonus picked up the package, threw the money to the boss hiding in the bar, and walked straight out. This group of guys interrupted him to rest. A group of stunned youths who have just gone to sea, have not even heard of his name, and dare to cause trouble. Daz Bonus paid no attention to Akin and Shiroki, and walked out of the tavern. Ajin and Chengmu glanced at each other and shrugged rather helplessly. Originally, the 2 of them were going to teach these pirates, and then subdue each other, so that they can pretend to be more alike by pretending to be a pirate. As a result, Daz Bonus killed all the people with 1 move. The 2 of them lost their mood to drink, put the money on the bar, and walked out. This day's bonus is so strong. Cheng Mu was walking on the road, looking at the pirates around him, he was observing these people. Yeah, Ah Jin nodded, found a more lively tavern, opened the door and walked in. In this tavern, pirates, underground forces, and bounty hunters gathered. As soon as Akin and Akin walked in, many people looked up at them. Because the positions of the 2 are not too high, and they are not as often in the newspapers as Lucas. Unless you check their information inside Marine, these people will never see that they are Marine. It didn't take long for the person who looked at the 2 to lose interest and continue to drink. Advertisement. Ajin and Chengmu had never seen them before, nor had they heard of them, nor had they offered a reward. It must be just 2 newcomers who have just gone to sea. The pirates were not interested in them, and the bounty hunter saw that they were 2 newcomers who had no oil and water, and they were not interested. Ajin and Chengmu sat in an empty seat, ordered 2 bottles of wine, and began to chat while observing the people present. Surprisingly, they found Daz Bonus in the corner. Their task this time is to pretend to be pirates, organize their forces, and then make a name for themselves in West Blue. After the 2 became famous, they followed the plan and held a Death Sea competition. The first place in the competition will receive a high prize. Of course, not for a simple game. At that time, the Death Sea race, they will choose a bad weather night, a permanent pointer to the pirates. Later, it's a trap. Ajin and Chengmu were drinking, and at this moment, a man dressed as a drama character in a black top hat walked in at the door. The man glanced at the pirates in the tavern, tapped his cane and laughed. With both pirates and underground forces, Lafitte felt very good. Sure enough, the harvest on this island is still very good. Lafitte, a pirate looked at the devil-like guy in horror, got up quickly, and was about to run out. Puff. Lafitte's cane drew a thin sword and pierced it directly into the pirate's heart. As a security officer for West Blue, Lafitte didn't think he had done anything wrong before. He killed criminals, he killed pirates, but he was notorious for his excessive law enforcement and was expelled by the state. Lafitte now only wants to kill a few more pirates on this island to vent their anger. You guys here today don't even want to leave here, Lafitte said with a smile. Although he was expelled a while ago, it didn't matter. He can continue to enforce the law alone, and the pirates will kill him or he will. The people in the pub looked at Lafitte in horror. Quote. Days Bonus frowned and looked at Lafitte. This guy is very annoying. Chapter 150,148. Those with the ability to cut the fruit quickly show up against Lafitte. For subscription. For monthly pass. For reward. Advertisement. Daz Bonus rushed up. His arms turned into blades, swung his arms to make the arms cross his chest, and directly slashed several slashes at Lafitte. 2 wings grew out of Lafitte's back, and the wings flapped. He rushed out of the tavern and flew over the island. The door in front of Daz Bonus was cut into several pieces in an instant and fell to the ground. Lafitte flew in the air and laughed as he watched Daz Bonus rushing out of the tavern. He inserted the rapier pulled out of the stick back into the stick, took the stick, and performed hypnosis against Daz Bonus. Looking at Daz Bonus, who was affected by his own hypnosis, Lafitte smiled and fell down. The pirates in the tavern and members of the underground forces ran out one after another, raising their swords one by one, and slashing at Lafitte. Lafitte is called the Devil Sheriff. These people understand that the other party wants to kill them, and they can only wait to die if they don't resist. Lafitte drew the rapier from his cane and stabbed at these guys. Puff. A pirate fell to the ground with a sword in his heart. Lafitte was surrounded by a large number of people, but facing these people, he did not rush to evade the opponent's attacks one by one, and kept knocking down opponents one by one. There are fewer and fewer pirates, and more members of the underground forces are dying. Ah Jin rushed out, his weapon covering the armed color, directly blocking Lafitte's attack. Oh, Lafitte looked at Akin with interest. Why didn't he see each other in West Blue? He stabbed out with a sword, and Ah Jin dodged and dodged, smashing his weapon against Lafitte. Interesting. Lafitte avoided Akin's attack. At the same time, Daz Bonus was finally awakened by the bounty hunter and broke free from hypnosis. Get out of the way. Daz Bonus yelled, turning the palms of his fingers into blades, and swooping forward. Foam daisy cut. Ajin and Chungmu quickly drew away, and Lafitte grew wings on his back and flew into the sky, avoiding the slash of Daz Bonus. The building on the opposite side was instantly cut into several pieces by his slash. The building was about to collapse, and the people around instantly ran away. Boom. The building collapsed and turned into rubble. Ajin looked at this man in surprise, so powerful. Quote. Daz Bonus raised his head and looked at Lafitte who was flying away, then turned and looked at Ajin. What's going on today? He just finds a tavern to have a drink and rest. Advertisement. Disturbed one after another. Too lazy to change places, Daz Bonus stepped past the crowd, walked back to the tavern, and continued to drink. Akin looked up at Raphael who was flying away, thoughtfully. As soon as they arrived on this island, they met Daz Bonus, the quick cutting ability, and Lafitte, nicknamed Devil Sheriff. West Blue is getting more and more interesting. Akin now thinks about it. It's interesting to follow Lucas Rear Admiral to West Blue. West Blue, an island. Lucas was dressed in casual clothes, followed by Monet, who was beautifully dressed and wrapped his arm. Akin implemented his plan with Kong Ming Vice Admiral for him, and he dressed himself as an ordinary person and came to this island. According to the information he received, Capone Beige was invited by West Blue underground boss to come to the island for a banquet. This boss, under his control of the underground forces on the 5 islands of West Blue, this time he invited many friends from the underground forces and some powerful pirates to the banquet. The boss claimed that as long as he is strong, he can participate in his banquet and even join his subordinates. Hello, are you so interested in this Capone Beige? Monet rubbed Lucas up his head and asked. Quote. Lucas looked down at Monet. Please pay attention, this lady. I'm not interested in him. Lucas smiled and shook his head. He is only interested in Capone Beige's Jonchung fruit. You can turn into a huge castle, and you can turn your legs into tracks, rushing around like a small tank. In terms of strategy and fun, he is quite interested. The two walked into the town, and Lucas came out this time without his knife. The reason is simple. He was reported by some people for a long time. He still has his knife. Tenton was in the newspaper. Lucas's knife is now an iconic presence among the younger generation of Marine. Does the boss of the underground force read the newspaper? He was afraid that he would be recognized, so even his and Monet's appearances were made simple. They put on a beard, put on big sunglasses, a mole on his face, changed his hairstyle and dyed it black. Lucas met Guillaume on the way to this island, but the other party didn't recognize it at all. Sure enough, this is a blind world, and this level of disguise can deceive many people. Is this really okay? Monet touched the big sunglasses he was wearing. Advertisement. Don't worry, Lucas said, and then walked into a weapons store. In his previous life, he watched animations, and those ugly monsters who broke through the sky with crooked melons and cracked dates, casually dressed in imitating costumes, many people regarded them as straw hats. He once thought it was nonsense, until now. Hey, it smells so good. However, no one recognizes them now, but Lucas's knives are too recognizable, and they are all included in the records of some famous knives. It is conceivable that he came out with a knife and was definitely recognized. Buy a knife first and use it against it. 10 minutes later, Lucas took a knife with a red scabbard and walked out of the weapon shop. When they came to the house of the big man, Lucas and Monet walked inside. Where is the invitation letter? A boy in a suit stopped the two. Lucas instantly entered the amplification state, drew his knife quickly, smashed the little brother's sunglasses with a single knife without hurting the opponent, and quickly inserted the knife back into the scabbard. Everything happened in an instant. This little brother didn't even see Lucas drawing the knife. Snapped. The broken sunglasses fell to the ground. The little brother quickly picked up the sunglasses, looked at the neat knife marks on the lens, and looked at Lucas, who was smiling at him in horror. Please come in. The little brother quickly invited Lucas and Monet in, introduced the banquet for the two, and continued to lead them. The boss does have this rule. People with strong strength can come in without an invitation letter. And this person's strength is simply outrageous. Monet took Lucas's arm and looked up at him in surprise. Lucas lowered his head and smiled at her. That's all right. One Piece world, face blindness is normal. This little brother walked in front, brought the two to their boss, and introduced them to the boss. This is our boss, Mr. Garrus. This is Mr. Usopp, the great swordsman. The boss then listened to the little brother's description of Lucas and looked at each other in surprise. Quickly shook hands with each other to show good. At the same time, Lucas sensed Capone Beige, who had just entered the banquet. Chapter 151,149. Capone Beige's assassination. For subscription. For monthly pass. For reward. Advertisement. I don't know if this is. The big boss Garrus smiled and looked at the woman holding Lucas's arm. This is my girlfriend, Lucas said with a smile. Although he just casually told a lie, Monet was happy, and she happily put her head on Lucas. Quote. Lucas was speechless. Good fellow. Monet was quicker than the other party believed. Forget it, he is young. Next time he will say it is his sister. Garrus remembered what the little brother had said. Lucas cut the sunglasses with a single blow without hurting anyone. The most incredible thing is that Lucas's dagger brother did not see clearly. The more Garrus looked at Lucas, the more pleasant it would be. If the other party can become his subordinate, is he still far from unifying the underground forces of West Blue? We have something to talk about, so we won't accompany too much. Garrus followed by a tall and gorgeous woman. Okay. Lucas nodded, walked to a table with Monet and sat down. Garrus walks to Capone Beige with his girlfriend. Although he wants to recruit a strong like Lucas, his main thing today is to talk to Capone Beige about the site. Capone Beige is a strong rising existence in the West Blue underground forces. He came to a big guy's house alone, and single-handedly assassinated the big guy and killed all of the big guy's younger brothers. He wants to cooperate with each other, form an alliance to eat the territory of a big boss who is bigger than theirs. Lucas was sitting at the table, eating food, and Monet looked at him happily. What did this straight steel man just say? She is his girlfriend. Monet was happy, and quickly picked up a piece of meat and put it in Lucas's mouth. Lucas bit the meat and looked around. There were people everywhere in the party. Forget it, bear with Monet for the time being. Monet's heart, he had already seen clearly, and Lucas had long been numb in the face of the opponent's daily attempts to attack him. Forget it, he doesn't lose anyway. Monet took Lucas's arm, holding him piece after piece of meat, and Lucas didn't even have to do it himself, and he opened his mouth to eat while observing the surroundings. Lucas looked around while performing the love of love between him and Monet. A fat man sitting in the corner who was much taller than him caught his attention. Maria. Lucas looked at this man unexpectedly. Advertisement. Why did Moria come to this kind of party? This guy's current idea is to take his people to the first half of the Grand Line to create zombie troops. Is there any corpse here that he can see? Lucas just glanced at Moria, then looked at other places naturally. There was no other person to follow Moria. The banquet lasted for a while, and Garrus and Capone Beige chatted happily. The two stood up and shook hands. Lucas smiled. He had anticipated what would happen next. Capone Beige sneered at Garrus, and a small door appeared in front of him. The little brothers in his body were aiming at Garrus with their guns, and there was a clear gunfire. Garrus looked at Capone Beige in shock. They had already negotiated. The little brothers in Capone Beige's body had already beaten Garrus into a sieve, his eyes lost their brilliance, and his body fell backward. Boom. As Garrus fell, his men drew their guns and shot Capone Beige. Only, the boys in Capone Beige's body directly loaded the cannon with shells and fired at those enemies. Negotiations, alliances, joke. Does Capone Beige need to work with such an idiot? Lucas sat quietly in his place, he guessed it correctly. Capone Beige is a person who likes to take the first level of others for fun. Capone Beige's strong city fruit, you can station everything in your body, like a castle. The objects entering his body became smaller, and the objects leaving the range of ability returned to their original state again. This is the biggest reliance on the opponent to pick a group. Because Capone Beige's men are all stationed in his body. Aim your guns at the enemy at any time and start shooting. Lucas looked at Moria, and sure enough, this guy was gone. There was chaos at the scene, and many people wanted to escape. Advertisement. Garrus's men kept firing at Capone Beige, and the little brothers in Capone Beige's body kept firing cannonballs, causing heavy casualties to these people. Capone Beige turned around and looked at Lucas, who was eating and drinking steadily in the distance, and couldn't help but laugh. Brother, aren't you afraid that I will kill you? Capone Beige admires this person a little bit. In West Blue, there are some people who are so courageous. Scared, Lucas wiped his mouth, looked up at Capone Beige, and grabbed the long knife leaning on the table. Capone Beige's little brothers saw Lucas going to shoot, and they shot. The bullet left Capone Beige's ability range, changed back to its original size, and quickly shot towards Lucas. Lucas looked at the table he had eaten clean, stood up directly, waved the long knife in his hand, and shot the bullets flying with cold light. Capone Beige applauded appreciatively. Such a young man, not bad. I'm scared. After all, your fruits are too powerful. Lucas's voice came from behind Capone Beige. Several small doors appeared behind Capone Beige, and his little brothers aimed their cannons at Lucas, firing one after another. The little brothers in the small door in front of Capone Beige's body fired at Monet. Monet laughed. The whole person turned into snowflakes, and disappeared in an instant, and shells hit the distant courtyard wall. Monet appeared after the shells. And Lucas, he appeared directly to the left of Capone Beige, dodged the shells. Capone Beige's bombing had already blasted the house of Garrus into ruins. How did it? Capone Beige looked at Lucas. It's just that Lucas didn't want to answer, and gave Capone Beige a knife. Capone Beige's legs turned into tracks and rushed to the distance quickly. He is not Zoro's opponent at all. In West Blue, he had never heard of this person. Capone Beige feels bad. Isn't the opponent the strong one coming back from the Grand Line? He turned his head and looked behind him, but at this moment there was still Lucas behind him. Lucas rushed directly in front of Capone Beige and slashed. Capone Beige was forced to use castle full-size Big Boss. His body turned into a huge castle. One by one the cannons aimed at Lucas and fired directly. The current Capone Beige, his huge castle defense force can be called a copper wall and iron wall. Lucas rushed on the moonwalk and slashed on the huge castle. Chapter 152,150. Lucas Showdown Capone Beige. End abuse. For subscription. For monthly pass. For reward. Advertisement. Inside the huge castle, a wound suddenly appeared on Capone Beige's chest, blood splashed, and he knelt to the ground with a cry of pain. Lucas's knife directly broke the copper and iron defenses of his huge castle. Boom boom boom. The cannon aimed at Lucas, and shells exploded out of the barrel and flew towards Lucas. Lucas chopped several chopping waves in succession, destroying one shell after another. Boss Beige, come out and fight with me, Lucas said with a smile, and then struck the huge castle. Wow. Inside the huge castle, Capone Beige spat out blood. Lucas's attack fell on his castle, and even the defenses of Capone Beige's copper and iron walls could not withstand it. Run. Capone Beige controlled the crawler under the huge castle without saying a word, turned around and ran. The huge castle crushed Garrus's home, rushing out with a bang. After 2 hits, you ran, so you want to unify the West Blue underground forces. Lucas stepped on the moonwalk and quickly chased him up with a smile. Capone Beige stood up and looked at Lucas who was chasing him. He didn't want to get too entangled with the opponent at all. The strength of the opponent exceeded his expectations. The opponent may be the strong one who came back from the first half of the Grand Line, and more likely, this is the one who can't stay in New World and ran back to West Blue. Anyway, he is not the opponent's opponent at all. Let's talk about it after running. Monet turned into snowflakes and flew up, chasing Lucas's side. Do you need my help? No need. Lucas smiled and shook his head. Full strength increase. Lucas slashed on the huge castle, and the whole castle trembled slightly. Capone Beige, who was in the castle, just stood up and climbed down in pain. A deep wound appeared on his back, and the blood kept flowing out, staining the floor of the castle red. Who are you? Capone Beige asked loudly through gritted teeth. We don't have any hatred, the strong from Grand Line. No, our hatred is gone. Outside, Lucas stepped on the moonwalk and shouted to Capone Beige. Then he kicked on the huge castle. The whole huge castle trembled violently, and at the same time the crawler was advancing rapidly. It almost fell over. Advertisement. Capone Beige screamed in pain, his expression distorted. He simply couldn't remember when he had a grudge with a great swordsman named Usopp. And he hadn't seen the other person in West Blue either. The huge castle of Capone Beige was driven by caterpillars and rushed towards the town quickly. When the people in the town saw this behemoth rushing, they screamed in panic and fled to the distance. Lucas quickly rushed to the huge castle, and in an instant, he rushed directly to the huge castle. The long knife in his hand fell fiercely, and slashed on the castle. With full growth and strength, Lucas directly stopped Capone Beige's huge castle with a single blow. Then Lucas stepped back, and while he was in the air, he continuously swung waves of chopping waves at Capone Beige. Attach a volume increase to the chopper wave. One after another, the chopping wave became huge and fell on the huge castle. Lucas kept swinging the knife in his hand, and the chopping wave kept flying out. Capone Beige suffered terrible injuries time and time again. Suddenly, Capone Beige opened the doors behind the huge castle and blasted his men out. He can't hold on anymore. The gravel on the huge castle kept falling, and in the next moment, the extremely conspicuous existence of the huge castle on this island suddenly disappeared. Capone Beige returned to normal, lying on the ground, covered in blood, with hideous wounds all over his body, and no piece of skin was intact. Lucas landed slowly, swinging a chopping wave at the younger brothers who had rushed to help Capone Beige. Slashing waves came one after another, hitting and piercing their bodies one by one. Each of them fell down with the falling of the chopping waves. However, to Lucas's surprise, none of Capone Beige's little brothers escaped. One by one they picked up their guns and fired at Lucas. Others want to rush up and save Capone Beige. Lucas was relieved of the state of increase. He was indeed faster than shaved at the rate of increase, but there was a shortcoming, which was extremely exhausting. To deal with these cannon fodder, there is no need to increase. Using the shaver to move at a high speed, he came to the front of a little brother in an instant. Lucas grabbed the opponent's barrel with one hand, the color of his palm was hardened, and he bent the barrel directly. Then Lucas stabbed the guy in the heart. Advertisement. Lucas solved the little brother who was trying to take Capone Beige away, and then easily dodged bullets. Lucas grabbed Capone Beige on the ground, and when he grabbed Capone Beige, all of the opponent's little brothers put down their guns. You have the ability to shoot, Lucas said. These little brothers looked at Lucas in despair, and their boss was caught. Let go of our boss, we are willing to take money, or even exchange our own life for the boss's life. Wit, wearing a magenta suit, yellow bow tie and shawl, walked out and quickly said to Lucas. All right, Lucas said with a smile. What all? Life. Quote. Wit looked at this guy speechlessly. Is this human? If all of them were to die for the boss, who would guarantee that the boss would survive? That's not enough. When Wit didn't reply, Capone Beige's other subordinate, Gotti, directly picked up his heavy machine gun and aimed directly at Lucas. Let go. Or I will let you taste the fate of angering us. Lucas held the seriously injured Capone Beige in one hand, then looked at Gotti and smiled. You shot, I'll try the Beige shield, okay. Quote. Opposite Capone Beige's little brother can be described as gnashing his teeth, wishing to smash Lucas this B***************. We are rich, think about money, what kind of friends? We are very powerful in West Blue, think about it. Wit said quickly, and walked forward at the same time. Take out all the money you have, and you need it now. Lucas said with a smile. Although Capone Beige is still far behind the unification of West Blue underground forces 10 years later, he estimated that the other party also has underground forces on several islands. Wit smiled bitterly at Lucas, how could a large amount of Bailey be with him? The seriously injured Capone Beige was held by Lucas in his hand. He opened his eyes and looked at Lucas. I'm Usopp, remember, Lucas said and punched the opponent in the eye.